Chapter 994. Very strong. The aura of the Immortal Sutra he comprehended is no less than that of Limubai. He should be even stronger. The attributes of the Crystal Palace are incompatible with his, which caused him to be slower by about 4 hours. This kid's performance 1,000 years ago was extremely shocking, and now it's even more terrifying. I'm afraid that all of us here, at his level and age, are far behind him. Indeed. This kind of domineering aura is not something that ordinary people can possess. After the divine minds of many divine envoys locked onto this figure, they all exclaimed in shock. It was no less than when they saw Chen Hao and Wen Tanlan come out. This figure was a disciple of the Fiery Lotus sect, Yin Xian. The Fiery Lotus sect was ranked 6th among the top sects in the chaotic Great Thousand World, and was much stronger than the Hunyuan sect. Yin Xian was a demonic genius of the Fiery Lotus sect. His personality was domineering, wild, belligerent, unrestrained, and undisciplined. Because of this, he had never joined any academy. Even the top academy in the chaotic Great Thousand World, the Chaos Academy, was beneath his notice. 1,000 years ago, when he participated in the competition of the Immortal Sutra Sanctuary for the first time, he easily stepped into the Immortal Sutra Sanctuary. At that time, he displayed amazing combat strength and the speed of his comprehension of the Immortal Sutra, which were among the best. At that time, it was only his first time participating. After that time, many people thought that he would definitely continue to participate in the competition in order to improve even more. However, what no one expected was that after he left the Holy Land of the Immortal Sutra, he never appeared again. Today, 1,000 years later, he finally reappeared. Moreover, needless to say, he had chosen to fight his way in through the cruel selection competition. Yin Xian, congratulations, you are the third to step out of the Crystal Palace, an old man said in a low voice, looking at Yin Xian with admiration. Third? Is there anyone faster than me? Interesting. Senior, who are the two people in front? Limubai and Wen Tanlan, disciples of the Hunyuan sect, a pair of cultivation partners. Yin Xian frowned slightly and said, never heard of it. Hehe, you're not inferior to them. The Crystal Palace's attribute is the complete opposite of yours, which affects your performance. Otherwise, it's hard to say who's faster. Oh. Did that mean that they were also very strong? Limubai of the Hunyuan sect, Wen Tanlan. I'll remember that. Thank you very much. Chi. Yin Xian took the token and immediately turned into a stream of flames, disappearing in the blink of an eye. He really is a battle maniac. It looks like Limubai and Wen Tanlan will have to face him sooner or later. No matter where this kind of person goes, he is bound to be an existence that dominates a region, and he will definitely fight against the strong. What he pursued was to be invincible among his peers. Voila! While these old saints were still discussing Yin Xian, someone else rushed out of the sea. It's him. This time, all the old saints' eyes widened into round balls. It seemed that this person's appearance was far beyond their imagination, and was even more shocking than Yin Xian's appearance. Little Xian, you're just so. You didn't even notice him after following him for so long. The person who stepped out of the sea quietly floated above the sea, exuding a majestic vitality and green light. Coupled with his turquoise Taoist robe, he looked even more vigorous. His eyes were emitting a dazzling and mysterious divine light, which was very shocking. However, this was obviously a man, and he was very strong. Yet, when he opened his mouth, he spoke in a sissy manner. That was really shocking. No, it was disgusting. Zhou Qinglong, why are you here? An old saint asked with a frown, looking surprised. Old grandpas, do you think he wanted to come? You'll be surprised later. Don't ask him. Heaven's secrets can't be revealed. It's not that he doesn't want to say, but in fact, he only knows these 6 words. Why? Why? I'm really curious. Oh, old grandpa, give me the token. The young man called Zhou Qinglong stroked his elegant green hair, twisted his waist in a flirtatious manner, and stretched out his orchid fingers. He looked at the saint who was holding the token but had no intention of giving it to him, and curled his lips and winked. Even though the old saints knew this guy very well, they still had a deep impression of him. When they saw him again, they were so disgusted that they had goosebumps all over their bodies. Here. Hurry up. Hurry up and leave. Oh, old grandpa, you're so annoying. I can leave by myself. How dare you make me leave? I'll be sad. Pfft. Ha ha ha, the surrounding saint envoys couldn't help but spit out their saliva. What the fuck, such a peerless genius was too unique. Okay. I'll give it to you. If you like to stay here, then go ahead. I'll leave. Swoosh. The sacred emissary's face turned green. He tossed the token to Zhou Qinglong and turned into a streak of light, fleeing into the distance. Humph, annoying. You're annoying too. You're making fun of me. I'm not going to play with you anymore. Chi. After Zhou Qinglong finished speaking, he twisted his slender waist and suddenly turned into a wisp of green smoke, disappearing at an astonishing speed. Zhou Qinglong, a disciple of the Green Lotus sect. 10,000 years ago, he was already an almost invincible existence in the Daluo golden wonderland of the vast thousand chaotic worlds. In order to comprehend the three great immortal sutras, he had not stepped into the Hongmeng domain. 3,000 years ago, his comprehension of the three great immortal sutras had surpassed that of many top sect masters. When he left, he said that he would never come to the Immortal Sutra Holy Land again and was preparing to advance to the Hongmeng domain. Who would have thought that this guy would come again after 3,000 years? His aura alone was stronger than that of countless top geniuses in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. The secrets of heaven cannot be revealed. What does that mean? And we're surprised. What does that mean? We're saints. Is there anything we don't know? After Zhou Qinglong left, the saints were puzzled. But everyone obviously knew what was going on. But then, the geniuses who these elders thought would never come to the Immortal Sutra Holy Land again and should be in the Hongmeng domain appeared one after another. Moreover, the time between Yin Xian and Zhou Qinglong seemed to have been calculated. Such a strange thing made the saints feel that something was bound to happen, and it was very likely that it was secretly arranged by the controller. Otherwise, they really could not think of anyone who could gather this group of geniuses who would never appear in the Immortal Sutra Holy Land again, let alone hide it from them. What could it be? What was the purpose of gathering these geniuses? The saints could not figure it out. They could only suppress their curiosity and wait for the result. They did not dare to ask the controller about this. Little guy, it's not that the old man is stingy. The three great immortal sutras are the foundation of our chaotic vast thousand world. The old man is already very generous to let you comprehend so much. In the final competition, I'll let you see the true geniuses of our chaotic vast thousand world. Perhaps they're a little worse than you, but that's only in terms of talent and potential. No one knew that in the deepest part of the Immortal Sutra city, a strand of omnipresent divine consciousness drifted in every corner of the Immortal Sutra city. After seeing Yin Xian, Zhou Qinglong, and the others arrive, it muttered to itself. Chapter 995. After 2 days and 16 hours of the Crystal Palace Immortal Fate test, 512,000 cultivators were the first to emerge victorious. These cultivators obtained tokens and entered Immortal Sutra City. Those who came out later did not even have the qualifications to enter the Immortal Scripture City. They were all teleported back by the space-time gate. The Crystal Palace test ended on the 3rd day. All the cultivators who were trapped in it went back the same way they came. Out of more than 10 million people, only 512,000 passed the audition. It could be said that it was cruel. But compared to the final competition 2 days later, it paled in comparison. Out of 512,000 people, only 1,000 could obtain the qualifications to enter the Immortal Scripture's sacred land. Out of 512 people, only 1 could enter. The final competition of the Immortal Scripture Sacred Land was very different from the ranking competition. There was only elimination, no cycle, no ranking. It did not have much to do with individual combat strength. Except for the previous competition, which deliberately reminded the cultivation world to pay attention to the inflow of new blood, the opponents were basically randomly assigned based on luck and immortal opportunity. Of course, if you were strong enough to look down on 512,000 people, then you could enter the Immortal Scripture Sacred Land no matter how lucky you were. But this was a minority after all. Especially after the previous competition's reminder, some powerful veterans who had been here many times chose to avoid it for the time being. On this day, early in the morning, when the first ray of sunlight rose from the sea level, Chen Hao and Nguyen Tan Lan, who were entwined together, opened their eyes at the same time. Chen Hao was motionless, his eyes empty. Nguyen Tan Lan stared at Chen Hao's empty eyes. After half a minute, she hugged Chen Hao tightly again, as if she wanted to rub herself into Chen Hao's body, and then let go. The final competition is about to begin. Let's get up. When they stepped out of the palace hand in hand, Nguyen Tan Lan took a deep breath. She knew that after today, Li Mubai would wake up. As much as she wanted to, Li Mubai continued to be immersed in this state. All disciples who have passed the Crystal Palace's Immortal Fate test, please immediately rush to the Immortal Scripture City's core martial arts practice field. All disciples who have passed the Crystal Palace's Immortal Fate test, please immediately rush to the Immortal Scripture City's core martial arts practice field. A vast and majestic voice drifted through the entire Immortal Scripture City. Ah! I haven't tried all the shops yet. I have a feeling that the 46th item will be mine. Stop dreaming. Do you think you're Dandinga? Let's go. Chi. It would only take a little more than 2 days for the disciples who passed the preliminaries to come out of the Crystal Palace. Under normal circumstances, other than the experts who deliberately participated in the preliminaries, most people would use the holy water and the cultivation room in the palace to improve themselves. But this time, when everyone heard the sensational news that 40 Immortal Sutra magic treasures had appeared, they more or less allocated some time to try their luck. Moreover, another 5 magic treasures had appeared. In total, there were 45 items. Dandinga, who could it be that obtained 30 Immortal Sutra magic treasures by himself? Brother Dandinga. I'm so curious. 30 Immortal Sutra magic treasures, so powerful. Who could it be? Could this be the reason why we were asked to come? Possibly. We'll know soon. So what if it's 30 Immortal Sutra magic treasures? They're mere worldly possessions. No matter who it is, I'll stab them with my spear. I'm looking forward to it. Interesting. When everyone flew to the Immortal Scripture City's core martial arts practice field, 9 figures with different auras, but all of them were extremely powerful, turned into streams of light and rushed to the martial arts practice field as fast as lightning. They're here. It's finally about to begin. What a powerful aura. Chi. In the spectator area specially set up in the martial arts practice field, the big shots who had been waiting for a few days opened their eyes one by one when they saw the dense crowd of participating disciples rushing over like locusts. Their divine senses searched over. Master! Master! In an instant, these powerful figures contacted their disciples. Although they couldn't get close, there was no problem in communicating with their divine senses. A moment later, all the big shots present were shocked. 45 Immortal Sutra magic treasures had appeared, and what was even more terrifying was that one person had obtained 30 of them. Mubai, after 5th Grand Elder Tian Wanxiang locked onto Chen Hao, he was excited. However, when he saw that Chen Hao was still sealing off all of his divine senses, he temporarily suppressed what he was about to say. Immediately, 5th Grand Elder Tian Wanxiang was shocked. His eyes locked onto Nguyen Tan Lan, who came hand in hand with Chen Hao. Her hair was coiled up and the aura she emitted showed that she had become a real woman. Tian Wanxiang was so shocked that he almost cursed. This can't be our disciples doing, right? What? At this moment, an old man sitting with 5th Grand Elder Tian Wanxiang was also shocked and exclaimed with a hint of anger, "How is this possible? Ah! How is this possible? Tian Wanxiang. It must be your disciple's doing." "Ahem, which disciple? Brother Gao, are you talking about 5th Grand Elder's personal disciple, Li Mubai?" After Tian Wanxiang coughed awkwardly, he immediately pretended to be stupid and said, "Besides, look at Li Mubai's state. I seriously suspect that it was your personal disciple who did this to 5th Grand Elder's personal disciple." "You, what about you? Who in the Hunyuan sect doesn't know that it was your disciple who took the initiative to approach 5th Grand Elder's personal disciple? TSK, TSK. Look, how strong is your disciple's aura now?" Tian Wanxiang said angrily, using 5th Grand Elder's name as an excuse. The other party was Nguyen Tanlan's master. He was also an elder, but he was much more powerful than Tian Wanxiang. He was one of the most powerful elders in the entire Hunyuan sect. Moreover, it was very likely that he would advance to the cutting path genuine immortal stage and become a grand elder. It was obviously unwise for Tian Wanxiang to do this, but it was obvious that his disciple must have been done. He couldn't help it. 3 pieces, 3 pieces. What 3 pieces? What surprised Tian Wanxiang and 5th Grand Elder, who didn't speak, was that Nguyen Tanlan's master, Gao Xiangcheng, suddenly said this. "Qing Lan. My disciple got 3 pieces of Immortal Sutra magic treasures. 3 pieces, 3 pieces. Ha ha ha. 1 piece of Immortal Sutra magic treasure. Good. What?" Almost at the same time, Sita Qian's master and Zhang Chang's master also cried out in surprise. If the disciples hadn't explained the situation in detail, these old guys in the Hunyuan sect would have thought that Immortal Sutra magic treasures had become common goods on the streets. Compete well and win glory for our Hunyuan sect. Whoosh! At this moment, 5th Grand Elder suddenly sent out a divine thought, directly cutting off the connection between Gao Xiangcheng and the others and his disciple. At the same time, he transmitted a message to all the disciples of the Hunyuan sect. This time, he came not only for his personal disciple, but also on behalf of the sect leader. Chapter 996. The others were fine, but if Nguyen Tanlan's master, Gao Xiangcheng, continued to speak, it would inevitably affect Nguyen Tanlan's upcoming competition. Although the 5th Grand Elder, Tian Wanxiang, did not want his disciple to start the fusion of yin and yang too early, as a man, as long as he did not take the fusion of yin and yang as the main path of cultivation in the future, it would not affect him much. But Nguyen Tanlan was different, he knew his own disciple well. The 5th Grand Elder, Tian Wanxiang, was not interested in Nguyen Tanlan. Similarly, Gao Xiangcheng would not be interested in Li Mubai. Although Li Mubai had suddenly risen, in the eyes of Gao Xiangcheng, he was far inferior to the disciples of the Chaos Academy. Even Situ Qian was much better, not to mention the monstrous geniuses of the Chaos Academy. Especially after Nguyen Tanlan had just obtained 3 Dharma treasures from the Immortal Sutra, it was even more impossible for him to be interested in Li Mubai. What did it mean to have 3 Dharma treasures from the Immortal Sutra? It was definitely a great fate with the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra. Once one entered, the improvement would be absolutely amazing. In the entire chaotic boundless world, there were probably countless monstrous geniuses waiting to be chosen by Nguyen Tanlan. So, after Gao Xiangcheng's divine sense was cut off by the 5th Grand Elder, the more he thought about it, the more depressed he became. His disciple had always been able to distinguish between the important and the important. How could she be so stupid and lose her primordial yin body this time? From the information he had received, it was indeed Nguyen Tanlan who had taken the initiative to approach Li Mubai. This was understandable. After all, Li Mubai had really risen. But no matter what, she should not have sacrificed her primordial yin body at this time. On the Hunyuan sect's side, just as the 5th Grand Elder settled the matter, the surrounding elders exclaimed in shock. Yin Xian. Zhou Qinglong, 9 monstrous geniuses that should not have appeared here had actually appeared at the same time in this year's final competition. This made everyone feel incredulous. The 5th Grand Elder frowned. These 9 people could be said to be the top monstrous geniuses in the chaotic Great Thousand World. However, the most important thing was that they had more or less disappeared for a long time. At least the 5th Grand Elder knew that a few of them had entered the Hongmeng domain. How could they have returned before advancing? The 5th Grand Elder sensed the aura of his disciple, Li Mubai, and faintly thought of something. But, other than shaking his head and sighing, what else could he do? In fact, when he was summoned by the master of the Immortal Scripture City for questioning, he already felt that it was basically impossible for Li Mubai to enter the Immortal Scripture's sacred land. It was unlikely that the controller of the Immortal Scripture City would allow an outsider to enter the foundation of the chaotic boundless world. But he didn't expect that the controller would use such a method to snipe. Mubai has already become so powerful. The 5th Grand Elder didn't think that the controller of the Immortal Scripture City would use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. Since the 9 people had been found, naturally, the others were not confident that they could stop Chen Hao outside the Immortal Scripture sacred land. Buzz. Chi 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 chi. After all the disciples who had obtained the qualifications for the final competition had arrived, a terrifying fluctuation suddenly came from heaven and earth. This fluctuation directly spread to the entire martial arts practice field. It was extremely shocking. Even the big shots of the cultivation world who had come to watch the battle changed their expressions slightly. It was also at the instant this aura appeared that clusters of immortal light gushed out from the center of the martial arts practice field. They were densely packed, and every area that was enveloped by a cluster of immortal light rumbled and rose up into the air. A total of 256,000 cubes. What a powerful divine ability. At this moment, Chen Hao, who was expressionless and had empty eyes, was shocked. With a wave of his hand, he could condense 256,000 cubes for the Daluo Golden Wonderland cultivators to use in the competition. How powerful did one's cultivation base have to be to do this? And that figure was just a phantom, a divine thought incarnation. It was unimaginable. The new Immortal Scripture Sacred Land competition is about to begin. This is a very strong competition, and it is also the competition with the most immortal scriptures Dharma treasures in history. 45. There are really many disciples with strong immortal fate. The phantom's faint voice seemed to be whispering in everyone's ears. There was no pressure. On the contrary, it made people feel very cordial. But it was precisely because of this that people were even more shocked. This is the power of new blood. The Immortal Scripture pays attention to the word fate. This competition is much better than the previous one. The old man hopes that the next competition will be better, and I also hope to see more new faces. The phantom's words were directed at the big shots of the cultivation world. But at this moment, little fellow, in today's competition, the old man will say the unpleasant things first so that you won't have any grudges. Well, since you were born in our chaotic vast thousand worlds in this life, you should be clear about the importance of the Immortal Scripture Sacred Land. The 3 great immortal scriptures are the foundation of our chaotic vast thousand worlds. The old man said bluntly that this should not be allowed to be comprehended by outsiders. But considering that you are a native of the chaotic vast thousand worlds in this life, the old man will not directly deprive you of your qualification. But if you want to pass, you have to give it a try with all your strength. The next 9 battles you will face are specially arranged by the old man for you. If you can pass, the old man will no longer stop you. The phantom's divine thoughts floated into Chen Hao's mind. Okay. Chen Hao answered without any hesitation. Did he have a choice? Not at all. The phantom's treatment of him was already quite courteous. At the same time, the phantom's words made Chen Hao slightly surprised. It seemed that the phantom had not found out the real reason why he was here. Native, did that mean he had reincarnated? Of course, Chen Hao would not even think about this at this moment. He was very clear that if the phantom wanted to catch his thoughts, it would not be difficult at all. The best way was to know but not know. Ha! You're obviously awake, why are you still pretending? Sometimes being confused is better than being awake, that makes sense. You should prepare for the competition, we'll talk about the rest after you're done. Okay. Okay, the final competition officially begins. The token in each of your hands will be sent to a random arena. No one knows who your opponent is. Once you enter the arena, the battle will begin. The winner will advance, the loser will be eliminated. If you win 9 battles in a row, you will be qualified to enter the sacred ground of the Immortal Sutra. Chi. Chen Hao felt that his token was exuding a mysterious aura as soon as the mysterious shadow's voice faded. Then, it rose up and flew towards one of the rings. Mubai, I'll bring, Chi. Chen Hao suddenly rose up, turned into a stream of light, and chased after the token. Nguyen Tan Lan was slightly stunned and felt a sense of loss. She still felt his residual warmth between her fingers. Fortunately, she realized that Chen Hao had not woken up, but was only chasing after her token. Who is this guy? He can't wait. Chapter 997. What's going on? His divine sense seems to have been completely sealed. Li Mubai of the Hunyuan sect. He's the Taoist companion of Nguyen Tan Lan, the one who obtained 3 Immortal Sutra magic treasures. Just now, my disciple said that he was immersed in a state of madness. Under normal circumstances, the contestants would only enter the stage after the tokens were returned to their original positions. Chen Hao chased after them directly, which was undoubtedly a very stupid thing to do. In an instant, it attracted a lot of people's attention, and his identity was exposed. The reason why Chen Hao did this was that he didn't want Nguyen Tan Lan to send him off every time. There was no need for that. Nguyen Tan Lan also had to fight. This kid is very confident. The virtual shadow thought to himself. Mubai, you must win. You can't be looked down upon. Tian Wanxiang stood up on purpose and howled towards the distance. Li Mubai naturally couldn't hear him. He was talking to Gao Xiangcheng, who had an ugly expression on his face, as if someone owed him money. Humph, don't dream about it. Qing Lan obtained 3 Immortal Sutra magic treasures. Even if she lost her primordial yin body, she can still choose a real monstrous genius at will. I'm not looking down on him, but it's a fact. Go back and take care of your disciple. Don't let him get close to Qing Lan again. Gao Xiangcheng didn't dare to say it out loud, but he transmitted his voice to Tian Wanxiang in a stern voice. Bah, who's the one looking for who? My disciple looking for your disciple. How could my disciple take the initiative in his current state? Wasn't it because your disciple found out that my disciple was unimaginably strong, so he took the initiative to offer himself? This is a junior's matter. You're already so old. Can't you take care of it? Tian Wanxiang said. At first, his words were reasonable, but the last sentence clearly expressed that he was willing to let Chen Hao be with Nguyen Tan Lan. 3 Immortal Sutra magic treasures. What kind of concept was that? Although Tian Wanxiang did not know how the master of Immortal Scripture City would deal with the outsider, Li Mubai, as long as he was here, he could improve a little. Dream on. Not to mention me, even the sect leader wouldn't agree. Didn't you see that the 5th Grand Elder didn't say anything? That's called having self-awareness and learning. A toad will never be able to eat the meat of an immortal goose. What's there to gloat about with 3 pieces of magical equipment? Just look at my disciple. Not just Nguyen Tan Lan, he can even get the most beautiful girls from the Chaos Academy. Do you really think I care? As expected, while Tian Wanxiang and Gao Xiangcheng were secretly bickering, the 5th Grand Elder, who had been frowning all this time, suddenly shook his head and said as he stared in Chen Hao's direction. Ah. Tian Wanxiang followed his gaze and was immediately dumbfounded. What? What's going on? The top monstrous genius who shouldn't have appeared here, the Thunder Spear Xiang Tianga, actually flew towards the arena where Chen Hao had entered. Xiang Tianga. Lightning Cloud Sect, a monstrous genius whose name shook the world 8,000 years ago. His thunder spear technique has long been cultivated to the extreme. 8,000 years ago, how many geniuses from the Grand Mist Supremacy realm did he defeat with his spear alone? Li Mubai's luck isn't good. Zhang Chang's master said indifferently. Although on the surface it seemed to be a fact, this guy was very happy in his heart. He was naturally clear about the conflict between Zhang Chong and Li Mubai. Li Mubai's elimination would affect the Hunyuan sect, but it was related to his personal interests. He didn't care and was very happy to see such an outcome. Good. Gao Xiangcheng also cheered in his heart. Xiang Tiange's appearance immediately made countless powerful figures in the cultivation world pay attention to his arena. It was no less than paying attention to the situation of their own disciples. The other 8 monstrous geniuses who shouldn't have appeared here, although they had also been assigned to an arena, because of a sentence that Yin Xian said when Li Mubai was the first to chase after the token, they all stood in place and didn't move for the time being. Li Mubai, in the crazy demon realm, the first to step out of the Crystal Palace test. It hasn't even been a day, Yin Xian said. When he entered Xianjing City, he inquired about Li Mubai and Wen Tanlan. Li Mubai, in the crazy demon realm. Perhaps, you are Dandinga. Crash, Xiang Tiange, who had stepped into the arena, stood proudly and stared at Chen Hao's empty eyes as if he wanted to see through him. The 3 words, Dandinga, directly caused an uproar in the audience. Wen Tanlan's heart thumped. Unfortunately, after Chen Hao grabbed the token, he stood on the arena like a statue and didn't have the slightest reaction. I'm afraid only people in your state can remain calm after obtaining the Immortal Sutra Dharma treasure. Your body contains extremely terrifying energy, and you were the first to rush out of the Crystal Palace test. You broke the record in less than a day. I think it's you. Xiang Tiange said with his head held high, his nostrils almost pointing at Chen Hao as he squinted his eyes. Every word he said shocked the big shots who were paying attention to this place. Especially when he said that the results of the Crystal Palace test would not be announced, and that he broke the record in less than a day, it was even more shocking. 5th Grand Elder and Tian Wanxiang took a deep breath in excitement. Gao Xiangcheng and Zhang Chang's master, who were happily waiting to see Li Mubai being defeated by Xiang Tiange's spear, widened their eyes as if they had eaten a fly. How could Li Mubai be so strong? Was it really Dandinga? If it was true, then Gao Xiangcheng could kill himself. Fuck, Dandinga had obtained 30 Immortal Sutra Dharma treasures, how could his disciple compare to him? All disciples, please enter the arena immediately. At this moment, the virtual shadow issued an order, interrupting everyone's shock. Chi 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 chi, streaks of light streaked across, like locusts, rushing towards the arena where their tokens were. Hey, I haven't seen enough, brother Little Egg is so handsome. So annoying, I'll deal with you guys first, chi chi chi, the other 7 monsters. When Zhou Qinglong raised his thumb and middle finger and made a sound, all of them frowned and took the lead to leave. Annoying. Bang! Zhou Qinglong waved his hand and stomped his feet. With a swish, he turned into a stream of light and flew towards his arena. Little Egg, can you make your move a little later? I want to take a closer look. Anyway, brother Little Egg is in the demonic realm. Zhou Qinglong was in the air, but his voice, which could kill people, floated out again. If you don't agree, I'll chase you for 10,000 years. Xiang Tiange, who had his nose in the air and was full of arrogance, shuddered when he heard Zhou Qinglong's words. 10,000 years. Motherfucker, do you want me to live? Although the 9 monsters were separated by thousands or even tens of thousands of years, when they were in the Hongmeng domain, they already knew each other, and no one was willing to submit to anyone. But all of them were afraid of one person, and that was Zhou Qinglong, this abnormal person. Chapter 998. How would Xiang Tiange dare to make a move immediately? But he could not allow himself to be threatened so blatantly. Don't bother me for the next 10,000 years. I only have 3 breaths of time. Zhou Qinglong said. You're so annoying. Bargaining with others. Humph, 3 breaths. Am I that weak? 3,000 years in a breath of time. Okay. Chen Hao, who did not show any reaction on the surface, secretly clicked his tongue. Those who could come here, whether it was the quota allocated by the sect or those who passed the preliminaries, could be called the top geniuses in the chaotic vast thousand world. There were even monsters from the Chaos Academy. But this sissy's conversation with the person in front of him was absolutely looking down on all the heroes in the world. 1 breath of time, that was only the time for 1 move. What if he met a genius like Huang Tianhua? Qi, Zhou Qinglong, Yin Xian, and the other geniuses arrived first. They landed on the arena where they were at the first moment. The moment they landed, the terrifying pressure and fighting spirit around them rose. How can it be me? Oh, God. Why? Why? It was not easy for me to make it to the final. Is my immortal fate so bad? I can't accept this. Almost in a moment, all the practitioners who saw the 8 monsters land on the same arena as them let out sorrowful cries. Why? Nguyen Tan Lan stared at Chen Hao, who stood in the arena like a statue, and bit her lips tightly. Who in the younger generation did not know Xiang Tiange? It was really unexpected that Li Mubai would meet such a monster in the first round. After all, in Nguyen Tan Lan's opinion, Li Mubai's fate with the Immortals Sutra was absolutely unparalleled. In the final competition, his luck should be extraordinarily good and he should be unimpeded. But in the first round, you can do it. I believe you. Nguyen Tan Lan took a deep breath when she thought of the terrifying energy hidden in Chen Hao's body, his powerful soul, body, and divine abilities, as well as his current state. She suddenly sped up and landed in one of the arenas. Boom! Nguyen Tan Lan unleashed her strongest aura before her opponent even stepped onto the stage. Nguyen Tan Lan's energy soared into the sky. She immediately emitted a brilliant immortal glow. Her aura was so strong that even Nguyen Tan Lan herself was a little shocked. Nguyen Tan Lan's confidence was unprecedentedly strong when she sensed that the yin and yang in her body were in harmony. So strong. Qing Lan's progress is so fast. Could it be, really be because of Li Mubai? Nguyen Tan Lan's master, Gao Xiangcheng, thought to himself at this moment. Nguyen Tan Lan has 3 Immortal Sutra Dharma treasures. A cultivator who had landed in the arena felt bitter when he sensed the terrifying aura. At this moment, the figure that seemed to have transformed into millions of shadows suddenly let out a powerful roar. Let the first round begin. Heaven and earth trembled. Chi chi chi. Clang clang clang. Boom boom boom, as soon as the shadow gave the order, earth-shattering noises erupted from the 256,000 arenas at the same time. Even if they were facing the 9 monsters, including Huang Tianhua and the other monsters from the Chaos Academy, Sita Qian, Zhang Chong, Nguyen Tan Lan, and the others who had obtained the Immortal Sutra Dharma treasures, none of them would give up without a fight. They might not even be considered as geniuses here, but after stepping out of here, which one of them was not a top genius in their respective factions? Even a chicken head would have the pride of a chicken head. Sorry, your immortal fate must be very bad. Even if you didn't meet me, you would still be eliminated. Go. Sorry. Goodbye. Too weak. Little brother, don't blame me. Come again next time. Boom 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 boom, the 8 monsters used their various divine abilities. Endless immortal light, terrifying aura, and powerful ultimate techniques blasted their opponents out of the arenas that were tens of thousands of square kilometers. Crack. 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 The 8 tokens shattered, and the tokens returned to the 8 people's hands. In one breath, they defeated their opponents with only one move. Let's end this. Boom. Huang Tianhua, the genius of the Chaos Academy, punched out. He stood with his hands behind his back, while his opponents spat out mouthfuls of blood and flew out of the arena. His battle prowess was equally shocking, and it was not inferior to the 9 monsters at all. Qi. Huang Tianhua, who also finished his battle in one breath, appeared in front of Xiang Tiange and Qin Hao at a terrifying speed. His entire body was shrouded in intense immortal light. Miss Ruan, your progress is really shocking. Huang Tianhua's eyes narrowed as he stared at the figure that was quickly approaching him. Nguyen Tanlan had also finished her battle in one move. Mubai, you want to fight? You want to fight? No one can defeat you. You must win. Do you understand? Use your strongest power to defeat any opponent who attacks you. Do you understand? Nguyen Tanlan shouted at the arena while she was in the air. Her face, which was not stunning, was shining with a strong desire to fight. She was even more anxious than the statue-like Qin Hao. Boom. What surprised everyone was that Qin Hao, who had not reacted until now, suddenly had his eyes turn red the moment Nguyen Tanlan finished speaking. In an instant, majestic blood qi, essence, qi, spirit, pressure, and endless immortal light gushed out from his body. The demonic realm had erupted. Roar! Qin Hao's black hair danced wildly, and his Taoist robes fluttered in the wind. As Qin Hao's power soared, he let out a furious roar, and the entire world exploded with a bang. His roar tore through the air. So powerful. This scene made countless people cry out in surprise. Ouch! Zhou Qinglong, who was a sissy, suddenly froze in midair. His eyes stared straight at Qin Hao's blood-red hollow eyes, which contained a kind of endless sorrow. He could no longer make any sound. The other 7 monstrous geniuses and Huang Tianhua's pupils also shrank. Mubai. Nguyen Tanlan bit her lips tightly. Her heart was stung by Qin Hao's piercing gaze. Boom. The expression of Xiang Tiangu, whose nostrils were facing Qin Hao, also became grave. The eruption of the Berserk Devil stage would definitely be able to unleash several times his own fighting strength. Moreover, the other party's aura made him feel an intense threat. At this moment, the arrogance of a monstrous genius disappeared. The unyielding fighting spirit hidden in his bones erupted like a volcano. Qi! The thunder spear appeared. Buzz! Buzz buzz buzz. Kacha kacha! The moment Xiang Tiange held the thunder spear, his entire person seemed to have turned into the thunder god. Endless thunder and lightning bloomed around his body, and his aura became many times stronger in an instant. So what if you're in the demonic realm? Explode with one spear. Take this. Qi! The thunder spear appeared. The void was suddenly flooded by the endless thunder and lightning spear, as if it had pierced through the order of time and space, making the world still. All the big shots, monstrous geniuses who had ended their battles early, and cultivators who had been defeated and disqualified, looked over in shock. Chapter 999. Boom! At this moment, Qin Hao's glabella suddenly flashed as if he had sensed the incoming attack. The divine weapon, Overlord Spear, appeared in his hand. Immediately, Qin Hao stabbed out with the spear, and a vast amount of energy gushed out from his body. At the same time, his physical body released an aura that was more powerful than that of an ancient beast. With a boom, he became one with the spear and rushed towards Xiang Tiange. He's using a spear. When Qin Hao took out the Overlord Spear, Xiang Tiange was quite surprised, but also very excited. The founder of the Thunderclap sect was the founder of the Spear Principle, and the Thunderclap Spear technique was known as the #1 spear technique in the chaotic vast thousand worlds. He had already mastered the Thunderclap Spear technique, and even if his absolute power was 30% weaker, he was confident that he could face any spear user, let alone the absolute power of the same level. The Mad Demon Realm is indeed fierce. No wonder he summoned us, his absolute power is not inferior to any of us. Unfortunately, he uses a spear, and he chose to fight in close combat. Oh! I forgot, the Mad Demon Realm is completely a subconscious way of fighting. Perhaps there will be an amazing eruption of combat skills. At that instant, one of the 9 peerless geniuses licked his lips with a stern and excited look in his eyes. Li Mubai was a genius who had risen all of a sudden. Although he was a lot younger than them, his strength had reached a shocking level. And Dan Dingo was very likely to be him. Although these monsters still did not understand why the 9 of them were asked to stop Li Mubai from entering the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra, there was no doubt that being able to fight with such a monstrous genius was something that made them excited. Humph, if you want to fight in close combat, then let's fight in close combat. In the Mad Demon realm, combat skills will be improved several times. This is also a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me to train. Rumble. In the terrifying explosion of energy, when Qin Hao violently smashed Xiang Tiange's terrifying spear radiance, Xiang Tiange suddenly raised his spear and rushed forward. Nguyen Tan Lan floated in the void, her heart thumping wildly. Although it was only a brief confrontation and had not officially begun, both Xiang Tiange and Qin Hao's attacks were so powerful that it made one's hair stand on end. At the very least, Nguyen Tan Lan did not have the confidence to take on this attack. However, the situation that Nguyen Tan Lan was most worried about did not happen. Qin Hao was still immersed in the state of madness, and he ferociously attacked Xiang Tiange. This also meant that unless Qin Hao was seriously injured to the point where he couldn't bear it, he would only become more violent because his subconscious had already started fighting. It was also because of this situation that Nguyen Tan Lan's worry naturally turned into anxiety for Li Mubai, worrying that he would be seriously injured. Even she herself did not realize that when this emotion arose, she did not think about whether Qin Hao would wake up or not. She was purely worried about the pain and failure of Qin Hao after being seriously injured. 5th Grand Elder Tian Wanxiang was also surprised. Li Mubai had only obtained the Overlord's spear for a limited time. Others might not know, but the 2 of them were very clear that this was not his area of expertise. The sword was his first weapon. In the state of madness, how could his subconscious choose the spear, and not the sword, which had already become an instinct? However, this doubt disappeared in an instant. Li Mubai, who had become one with the spear, used a strength that shocked the 2 of them to make the best explanation. At this moment, Nguyen Tan Lan's master, Gao Xiangqing's eyes were as wide as copper bells. First, his disciple had displayed a strength that was beyond his imagination. Especially after the fusion of yin and yang, as well as the mysterious aura that it contained, even he could not figure it out at the moment. Furthermore, he had defeated his opponent in one move and ran to Li Mubai's vicinity. And now, Li Mubai, who had just strongly urged him to get as far away as possible and not get close to his disciple, had displayed a strength that made him dumbfounded. More importantly, Xiang Tiange's previous words indicated that Li Mubai was very likely to be Dan Dinge, who had obtained 30 Immortal Sutras. This contrast came too fast, so fast that he felt like he had been slapped in the face. But no matter what, now, before the real situation was revealed, he would never ask Tian Wanxiang to control his disciple again. The 2 of them approached each other violently and directly became close combat. Ding ding ding. Peng peng peng. In an instant, the fierce confrontation between the tip of the spear and the body of the spear was dazzling. The majestic and terrifying strength poured into the spear from the 2 of them. Every collision caused the space to explode, and the energy wreaked havoc in all directions. Even through the protective immortal light of the arena, the nearby practitioner's hair stood on end. Chi chi chi, ah. Suddenly, to everyone's surprise, Xiang Tiange's body and the thunderclap spear contained terrifying lightning energy. Every time it collided with Qin Hao's Overlord spear, it was unable to break through the blood-red energy on the Overlord spear. But this time, the 2 long spears with different colors of immortal light collided once again. They actually intertwined together and did not immediately separate. The terrifying lightning energy quickly broke through the blood-red immortal light of Qin Hao's Overlord spear, causing the Overlord spear to slowly turn into the color of lightning from the tip of the spear. Io, Brother Little Egg's strength is not as good as his handsomeness. I'm so disappointed, Zhou Qinglong immediately said in a disgusting manner. However, in everyone's eyes, this was indeed the truth. Once Li Mubai's body was broken through by the opponent's energy, he would undoubtedly be severely injured. Mubai, explode. Explode. You can still explode, explode with all of your strength. Nguyen Tan Lan ignored everyone's sidelong glances and shouted towards the arena with a terrified face. At this moment, Chen Hao's blood-red, empty eyes contained a pain that was like blood dripping down. His long hair fluttered wildly, causing her heart to clench. Break for me. Boom. Xiang Tiange did not doubt him in the slightest. Seeing his violent lightning energy, under the enhancement of the thunderclap spear technique, approaching Li Mubai step by step, he knew that it was time for him to unscrupulously explode with the power of Mount Tai. Following this loud cry of his, a crystal glow shot out in all directions from between his brows. His entire body buzzed and shook. The originally straight long spear once again surged forward. Immediately, an even more frightening wild and violent lightning strength suddenly surged out one after another. Seeing this scene, everyone thought that this soul-stirring battle between the pinnacle was about to end. Die, die, die. Situ Qian's expression was even more excited as he cursed in his heart. Although he knew that the chances of him dying were close to zero, after all, Xiang Tiange did not have an absolute advantage over Li Mubai in terms of strength. But that did not stop him from cursing. At the same time, Zhang Chong, who was riding on a roller coaster, also had an excited expression on his face. Boom! The terrifying lightning energy finally spread to the end of Chen Hao's spear. At this moment, it was like an army collapsing, violently rushing towards Chen Hao's body. Roar! But at this moment, Chen Hao suddenly let out a ferocious roar like a beast. Chapter 1000. Ah! What? Zzz. Kacha kacha kacha. Amidst the screams of countless people, Chen Hao opened his mouth and roared. A terrifying devouring power surged around his body. He actually began to devour the violent thunder energy that Xiang Tiange had burst out. This attack contained the profound mysteries of the Thunder Crash spear art. It had the power to destroy the heavens and earth. Even a planet could be destroyed, but Chen Hao. He was actually devouring it. Ah! Nguyen Tan Lan screamed. Her pretty face was full of horror. Looking at Chen Hao's blood-red, crazy, and empty eyes, Nguyen Tan Lan recalled the time she had spent with Chen Hao. She was filled with panic for no reason. It was the panic of losing Chen Hao. Boom! Just when everyone thought that Li Mubai had really gone mad, Chen Hao's body, which was filled with endless thunder and lightning, did not explode. Instead, it expanded at an astonishing speed. 100 times, 1,000 times, bang! At the same time as the Taoist robe shattered, a resplendent immortal light bloomed. At some point, Chen Hao had already put on the soft armor that the fifth Grand Elder had given him under the Taoist robe, preventing him from being naked in front of everyone. At this time, all the cultivators who were paying attention, including the big shots in the cultivation world and the divine senses in the void, widened their eyes in horror. Even the fifth Grand Elder and Tian Wanxiang, who had long known the secret of Li Mubai's body, were no exception. In any case, they did not expect Li Mubai's body to expand to such a terrifying extent. Moreover, it was still expanding. Roar! In the blink of an eye, he had swelled to nearly 3,000 times his original size, turning Chen Hao into an oval-shaped balloon. He let out another furious roar, and the instant he opened his mouth, he spat out endless thunderbolts. However, at this moment, as if he was about to explode and die, his body emitted crackling sounds. His balloon-like bloated body, although it was still expanding, at this moment, it became solid. Moreover, as it grew larger and larger, his appearance and figure became more and more similar to his original appearance and appearance. The only difference was that he had become thousands of times larger, turning into a giant that looked down on the world like a mountain. Ah dash! How is this possible? Xiang Tiange was dumbfounded. No matter how crazily he activated his energy god art, he still couldn't destroy Li Mubai, who was bearing all of his energy god art, even when he was almost drained of all his energy. At this moment, in front of Chen Hao, he was like a tiny ant. My God! Is he still a human? 10 times transformation. It's too terrifying. Great change technique, 10,000 times giant body, how strong is his physical body? Everyone was stunned. The figures in the void all sucked in a breath of cold air. He had already estimated Chen Hao's potential to a great extent. Unexpectedly, he still underestimated him. Roar! Just as Chen Hao roared again, his mountain-like body, which was surrounded by thunder and lightning, suddenly shook. The endless thunder and lightning suddenly disappeared, as if they were all suppressed into his body. At the same time, he lifted his mountain-like foot, as if he was stepping on an ant, and stomped towards Xiang Tiange, who was in shock and horror. Qi! At this moment, Xiang Tiange suddenly turned into a stream of flowing light, soaring into the sky. The unyielding character and powerful strength of a monstrous genius were vividly displayed at this moment. He became one with the thunder spear, as if he had torn apart the void, and stabbed toward the giant Chen Hao's glabella as fast as lightning. Fatal blow. The ultimate mystery of the thunder spear technique, instant kill technique. This was a technique that condensed one's potential into one move. If it succeeded, the opponent would die, and if it failed, he would not have the strength to fight back. Ah, the situation had reversed too quickly, and once again there were exclamations of surprise. Zhou Qinglong, this sissy pervert, opened his mouth and stuck out his tongue. His orchid fingers condensed in the air, and his eyes were shining with the light of worship. Looking at the mountain-like Chen Hao, he suddenly froze. Her heart was beating so fast that it was thumping, ruthless enough. Fortunately, I have never fought with him, or else both sides would be injured, or even perish together. One of the 9 monstrous geniuses said in shock. The other people's pupils also shrank. Obviously, they did not feel any better, and were very afraid of Xiang Tiange's attack. No one would have thought that at this time, Xiang Tiange would display the ultimate mystery of the thunder spear technique. If one was stabbed, then one's primordial spirit would definitely be destroyed. Buzz! But at this time, the mountain-like giant Chen Hao's body shook and disappeared into thin air. Great teleportation technique. The virtual shadow in the void shouted in horror. Bang! Ah! Chen Hao's enormous body was like a ghost. Not only did he avoid Xiang Tiange's fatal spear at the critical moment, but he also flashed and kicked Xiang Tiange, who had exhausted all his energy, away like a rubber ball. Boom, like a meteor across the sky, when he was in the air, his body made an explosive sound. Condense. Qi. Just at this moment, a ray of light suddenly poured down from the void. It seemed extremely slow, but it also seemed like there was no gap in time. It enveloped Xiang Tiange's body. His body, which was about to collapse, suddenly stopped exploding. Little guy, you have a sense of propriety, not bad. While they were worried about Xiang Tiange, no one knew that the virtual shadow's voice sounded in Chen Hao's mind. It's just a competition. It's a pity that such a monstrous genius died. Everyone should cherish their own life, whether it's for themselves or others. Chen Hao said indifferently in his mind. Well said. The old man underestimated you after all. However, there are still 8 rounds. Everything has its weakness, and you may not be able to win all of them. Thank you for reminding me. Reincarnation, awakening, this life, the previous life, it's all me. Senior, you don't have to be wary of me. I don't think I'm an outsider. The great Tao is not heartless. Ha! It seems that although you're only at the great Luo realm now, you can also reincarnate with the old man. Very well, if I continue to call myself the old man, I'll be a little arrogant. Before you reincarnate, you should not be worse than the old man. Sorry, senior, before reincarnation, I can only fully awaken when I reach a certain realm. Now. I've only awakened a little, Chen Hao said. After knowing that the other party did not know the real reason why he was here, Chen Hao naturally would not be so stupid as to say that he was not a native of the chaos after reincarnation. The old man naturally knows that you don't know, but the old man can judge that the great teleportation skill is not something that anyone can cultivate, and not everyone has the heart to cultivate it. And your body is not something that ordinary people can have. Well, you can continue to prepare for the next round. Chapter 1001. Xiang Tiange, who had already arrived outside the arena, had a lingering fear and a pale face. If not for the timely intervention of the immortal scripture city master, his physical body would have collapsed at this moment. However, as a top monstrous genius, he, who had experienced countless life and death battles, faintly felt that this was not entirely because of the city master's intervention. If Li Mubai had directly used the overwhelming energy the moment he kicked him, his body would definitely have exploded, and there would be no time to rescue him. The 8 monstrous geniuses stared at this scene, and their expressions became solemn. Even Zhou Qinglong, the sissy, recovered a rare bit of a man's expression. Li Mubai, Situ Qian and Zhang Chong clenched their fists and loosened them again. A deep sense of despair and powerlessness emerged in their hearts. Xiang Tiange, one of the top monstrous geniuses in the chaotic vast thousand worlds, and he had been famous for a long time, was defeated by Li Mubai. What kind of concept was that? Even if they had obtained the immortal scripture magic treasure, the chances of them being able to fight against Li Mubai in this lifetime were slim. The legendary Great Change Technique and Great Teleportation Technique, Li Mubai actually used 2 of them. Amazing. Really amazing. Do you remember how Dan Dinge left when he obtained the 30th immortal scripture magic treasure? He disappeared silently. I'm afraid he used a method to conceal his aura, combined with the great teleportation technique. I feel that Li Mubai should be the real Dan Dinge. Xiang Tiange, who is so strong, lost. Who else could it be except for Dan Dinge, who could obtain 30 immortal scripture magic treasures? Chi! Nguyen Tan Lan suddenly turned into a stream of light and flew excitedly to the arena where Chen Hao was. Mubai. Like a little bee, Nguyen Tan Lan flew up to Chen Hao's empty eyes. She looked at Chen Hao with an admiring gaze and shouted, "Can you restore your original appearance? You've won. Put away the medallion and let's go back." Hearing Nguyen Tan Lan's words, Chen Hao suddenly stretched out his hand. Chi! With a flash of light, Nguyen Tan Lan stood on his hand. Soon after, he, who still maintained his giant form, took out the token and stepped out of the arena. The surrounding cultivators who had won and lost immediately scattered in all directions. Fuck, that was a towering mountain. If they were not careful, they would have been trampled on like ants. Nguyen Tan Lan blushed. Being placed in the palm of Chen Hao's hand, she couldn't help but feel a sense of security from the depths of her heart. Even if the sky fell, this big guy would definitely hold it up with her. Ah! Just as Nguyen Tan Lan was slightly intoxicated, Chen Hao sat down cross-legged. Suddenly, he flipped his hand, as if he was going to put her down. However, Nguyen Tan Lan, who was unprepared, fell directly. Nguyen Tan Lan didn't think much of it. After a scream, she directly summoned her energy and slowly landed on Chen Hao's body. However, at this moment, many people around suddenly widened their eyes, revealing a strange and wretched light. At the same time, Chen Hao was also stunned in his heart. Coincidentally or not, Nguyen Tan Lan landed right in the middle of his crotch. On Chen Hao's body, which was 10,000 times larger than his, Nguyen Tan Lan was not much bigger than an ant. Moreover, Nguyen Tan Lan paused for a moment before rising into the air again and flying onto Chen Hao's shoulder. Mubai, are you unable to shrink for the time being? Do you need to refine the energy you devoured? Although Nguyen Tan Lan knew that Chen Hao wouldn't answer, she still asked. After asking, she continued, "Then let's wait for you to recover first, then we'll return to the palace. The second round will only be held tomorrow." Qing Lan, Li Mubai, is it Dan Dinge? At this moment, Gao Xiangqing's divine thought floated over. Nguyen Thanh Lan was slightly stunned. She said, Master, this disciple doesn't know if you're already Tao companions with him, haven't you always been together? No, he might be, or he might not be. When I was immersed in cultivation, I don't know if he went out. Nguyen Thanh Lan said. She couldn't admit it, but of course, as her master, she couldn't deny it either. The 30 Immortal Sutra treasures were already on her, but what if Li Mubai woke up and asked her for them? Therefore, she definitely couldn't tell her master the truth at this time. Otherwise, if her master took a few of the Immortal Sutra treasures, it would be troublesome. Alright, it doesn't matter if he is or not, you're now his Tao companion. You've lost your primordial Yin body, so your future can only be entrusted to him. 3 Immortal Sutra treasures, even compared to the top monstrous geniuses, you're not inferior. This disciple will do her best, after all, he's in the demonic realm. As for what will happen after he wakes up, this disciple can't be sure. Nguyen Thanh Lan said bitterly in her heart. She naturally knew that her master was doing it for her own good, but what her master didn't know was that of the 3 Immortal Sutra treasures, 2 of them were obtained with the help of Li Mubai. The other one might be the same as Zhang Chong and Sita Qian, possibly because of Li Mubai. How could the real her compare to a beautiful and talented monstrous girl? In the cruel world of cultivation, in order to pursue the peak of martial arts, no one would give up a Tao companion who could help them improve and achieve greater achievements just because of pity for others. You must have confidence in yourself. This disciple understands. Previously, Gao Xiangchen couldn't wait for Li Mubai to stop pestering Nguyen Thanh Lan. At this time, however, he couldn't wait for Li Mubai to be with his disciple. Such a change was unexpected, but Gao Xiangchen didn't hesitate at all. Even if he was ridiculed by Tian Wanxiang, it didn't matter. Everything was for his disciple to achieve greater achievements. It was worth it. In the martial arts practice field, the fierce battles were coming to an end. Only a few opponents who were equal in strength were still clenching their teeth and fighting. But the arenas where the battles had ended also disappeared. In the 256,000 battles, the defeated cultivators were all dejected. They were more or less injured, and many of them were seriously injured. However, none of them died or their physical bodies were destroyed. And all of this was done by the shadow in the void with the strength of one person. This shadow controlled 256,000 battles at the same time. Its strength was unfathomable. Countless people didn't even pay attention to the battle arenas. Instead, they paid attention to the giant Chen Hao and Nguyen Thanh Lan on his shoulder. Chen Hao's mountain-like body made cracking sounds from time to time, and was shrinking bit by bit. Moreover, as time went by, the speed of shrinking became faster and faster. Before the battle ended, Chen Hao returned to his normal state. The moment his hollow eyes opened, endless lightning flashed. At this time, Nguyen Thanh Lan, who had jumped down from Chen Hao's shoulder, didn't hesitate at all. She stepped forward and held Chen Hao's hand. The two of them turned into a stream of light, leaving the shocked crowd behind. In such a short time, the terrifying energy and magical power of Xiang Tiange's Thunder Crash spear technique were completely refined. Chapter 1002. On this day, the name of the Hunyuan sect's Li Mubai spread throughout the entire cultivation world through the almighty cultivators present. The title of Dan Dinga, who had obtained 30 Immortal Sutra magic treasures, was forcefully crowned on Li Mubai's head, even though no one had any conclusive evidence. Defeating the Thunder Spear Xiang Tianga, a top genius, directly elevated Li Mubai to the ranks of the top geniuses in the entire chaotic boundless world. This also made the Hunyuan sect, who had lost face in the previous Immortal Sutra Holy Land final competition, feel greatly elated after failing to even let a single disciple enter the Immortal Sutra Holy Land. Li Mubai, Nguyen Thanh Lan, Sita Qian, and Zhang Chong. Just the fact that the four of them had obtained Immortal Sutra magic treasures was enough to cause a sensation in the entire cultivation world, not to mention that Nguyen Thanh Lan had obtained 3 Immortal Sutra magic treasures alone, and Li Mubai was the legendary Dan Dinga who had obtained 30 Immortal Sutra magic treasures alone. When the Hunyuan sect's sect master and the cultivators of the Hunyuan sect received the news, they could not believe it was true. In particular, the elders and disciples who had previously rewarded Li Mubai with the right to enter the secret grotto heaven were even more dumbfounded. Similarly, the second-rate academy where Li Mubai was in was also dumbfounded and shocked. Clap, clap, clap. In the palace, in the cultivation room, Qin Hao and Nguyen Tan Lan were once again immersed in the soul and body fusion. Of course, this was initiated by Nguyen Tan Lan. Today, Qin Hao did not wake up during the great battle, which was undoubtedly something that made Nguyen Tan Lan very happy. Naturally, she would not waste any time. She was not as optimistic as her master, because she knew her own capabilities. He was even more aware of how terrifying Li Mubai was. The more this was the case, the more she had to cherish this limited time. Each of the 9 monstrous geniuses has a very strong aura. No one else is weaker than Xiang Tiange. Nguyen Tan Lan didn't know that Qin Hao, who was immersed in the dual cultivation, was still able to spare some of his attention to consider the current situation. If I want to defeat them, I have to enter the true state of madness. This means that my true combat strength is far inferior to theirs, especially in terms of absolute power. It seemed that Qin Hao had won the battle easily. However, only he knew that things were not as simple as they seemed. At the beginning of the match, after sensing his opponent's aura, Qin Hao directly released the unbearable pain sealed in his mind from the macro world in his mind, directly entering the true state of madness. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to match up to his opponent in terms of absolute power. Not to mention winning, it would already be a miracle if he didn't suffer heavy injuries. After he had truly entered the state of madness, his combat strength had definitely increased by several times. However, even so, his victory over Xiang Tiange was still thrilling. Daluo Jinxian's perfect realm. No matter how talented a cultivator is, he still needs time to accumulate. I still have a long way to go. This was also the reason why the older the Daluo Jinxian was, the more powerful he was. In fact, it was the same for every realm. However, when a Daluo Jinxian advanced to the Hongmeng realm, the barrier between realms was incomparable to any other. Many people were imprisoned in this realm for hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years, or even their entire lives, unable to break through. Those who could advance to the Grand Mist Supremacy realm after being imprisoned for tens of thousands of years were all top geniuses. Such a long period of time would naturally cause a huge gap in combat strength between cultivators of the same realm. Of course, more importantly, after reaching this realm, rapid advancement didn't necessarily mean that one would become stronger or more monstrous. Otherwise, monstrous geniuses like Xiang Tiange, Yin Xian, and Zhou Qinglong would have already triggered divine punishment and advanced to the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. The reason was simple. Hongmeng Qi and the Great World Imprint. The stronger and deeper the understanding of Hongmeng Qi, the stronger one would be after advancing to the Hongmeng realm. The more perfect the Great World Imprint was, the stronger the embryonic form of the Great World would be. Once one stepped into the Hongmeng realm, the heavenly Tao of the Great World would be even more perfect, and the degree of improvement would also be greater. This was the most fundamental thing. It was something that had been finalized in the Daluo Golden Wonderland. Once one broke through to the Hongmeng realm, it would be thousands of times more difficult to perfect the embryonic form of the Great World. You reap what you sow, this was the logic behind it. The quality of the embryonic form of the Great World would determine what one would obtain after stepping into the Hongmeng realm. There are still 8 matches left. I have to win, and I have to win strongly. The stronger the divine powers, battle techniques, and strength, the better. Qin Hao thought to himself. He was very clear about his current situation. It was not that he did not believe in the master of the immortal scripture's sacred ground, but he had always believed that the entire world of cultivation was a world where the strong were respected. This was the case in the primordial chaos vast thousand worlds, and it was the same in the chaotic vast thousand worlds. The master of the immortal scripture's sacred ground naturally treated him with respect not because he was afraid of him. Of course, this was what the master of the immortal scripture's sacred ground thought. He was also afraid of the vast thousand worlds that he belonged to. Then, the stronger the talent, battle strength, potential, and divine powers he displayed, the less the master of the immortal scripture's sacred ground would make things difficult for him. Just as Qin Hao's strand of consciousness was still thinking, he suddenly felt that Nguyen Thanh Lan's peak had come very quickly this time. It had only been a short while, and she was about to explode. She's really hardworking. It's really rare to see a woman with such a strong obsession to reach the peak of martial arts, hiss. Qin Hao put away this strand of consciousness, and wholeheartedly integrated into the graceful and tender body that was tossing and turning under his body. Although he did not want to admit it, he had to say that, at this time, no matter how strong a man's will was, he would immerse himself in the lower body to think about the most primitive throbbing of human beings. There was no other way. If he lost interest in this feeling, he was afraid that he was not a man, or at most, a sissy and pervert like Zhou Qinglong. The next day, when Qin Hao and Nguyen Thanh Lan appeared at the martial arts practice field hand in hand, Qin Hao did not feel anything, but Nguyen Thanh Lan, who coiled her hair and held Qin Hao's arm, became more and more natural and comfortable, as if she no longer had any psychological burden about the identity of Li Mubai's Taoist companion. What was even more surprising was that Nguyen Thanh Lan's abundant essence, energy, and spirit, and the invisible aura of harmony that bloomed around her body, were clearly stronger than yesterday. Even though everyone knew that the two were definitely cultivating the fusion of yin and yang, Nguyen Thanh Lan's improvement was really too shocking. One day was different. Even if the palace had the laws of time and space, it was really too fast. Gao Xiangcheng, Sita Qian, and the others who knew Nguyen Thanh Lan's talent and potential were all shocked. They understood that all of this was because of Li Mubai. And it was very likely that it was related to Li Mubai's demonic frenzy realm. In their minds, perhaps Li Mubai's demonic frenzy realm could give Nguyen Thanh Lan great benefits during dual cultivation. Of course, this was only a guess. After all, none of them had experienced the fusion of yin and yang in the demonic frenzy realm. Chapter 1003. What? Thunder Spear Art. How is this possible? In the second battle, Qin Hao once again faced one of the 9 great monstrous geniuses. In the state of madness, he was still holding the Overlord's spear in his hand, his aura soaring to the heavens. But the most shocking thing was that the moment he struck, the endless spear radiance contained the mystery of the Thunder Spear Art that Xiang Tiange was proficient in. This caused the entire martial arts field to explode. The elders of the cultivation world watching the battle all cried out in shock. The illusory figure in the air was slightly shocked, and Xiang Tiange, who had already been eliminated but still had the qualifications to watch the battle, sucked in a breath of cold air, his eyes wide open in shock. What the? Is this still a human? After countless years of painstaking practice, he had finally reached the ultimate level of the Thunder Spear technique, the best spear technique in the chaotic vast thousand worlds. However, Li Mubai had actually, secretly learned it by exchanging blows with him. He did not believe that the other party was able to obtain the mantra of the Thunder Spear Art. That was simply impossible. There was only one explanation. Yesterday, after the other party had completely devoured his energy and divine ability, he had comprehended the mystery of the Thunder Spear Art from it. The state of madness, it must be the state of madness that gave him a terrifying comprehension ability. Almost in an instant, countless people thought of this possibility. The state of madness was an existence that was even more difficult to obtain than enlightenment. In this state, the eruption of potential was undoubtedly all round. Apart from this explanation, no one would believe that Li Mubai's comprehension ability was so strong that he could comprehend the mystery of the Thunder Spear Art in one day. But in the air, the illusory figure of the immortal scripture's sacred ground frowned slightly. He knew that Qin Hao was in a state of clarity. But at the same time, he also discovered that Qin Hao could enter the true state of madness at any time. This also meant that the state of madness that cultivators yearned for had become an inherent ability of Qin Hao. Then, in this state, with such shocking comprehension ability, what kind of secret technique could he cultivate? Not to mention other cultivators, at this moment, even he was a little envious and jealous. To be able to give birth to such a monstrous genius, just how strong is it? And he also possesses the great teleportation technique, the great abnormality technique, and these were all displayed by him. The immortal scripture sacred ground controller began to ponder. In the second battle, Chen Hao's Overlord Spear contained the mystery of the Thunder Spear art. Although his comprehension of the Thunder Spear art was far inferior to Xiang Tianga, but with his exquisite battle techniques, he was able to unleash to the fullest. When the spear struck out, thunder rumbled, and it was incomparably violent. However, the attacks were all aimed at the weakest points of the monstrous genius's divine ability. It was clearly a very violent and powerful spear technique, but it used a purely offensive stance to force the opponent into a completely defensive stance. In the end, this battle lasted for a full 4 hours after all the matches had ended. The monstrous genius let out a hysterical roar, and left the arena. He did not even use his ultimate move. It wasn't that he didn't want to. Firstly, Chen Hao's attacks were too violent. He didn't even give him a chance to breathe. Secondly, once he used his ultimate move, according to yesterday's situation, his chances of winning were still very small. With these two situations stacked together, there was no need for him to use it at the risk of being seriously injured or even having his body destroyed. There was really no need. In the second battle, Chen Hao displayed such astonishing battle techniques that seemed to be innate. To a certain extent, it consolidated the information that Li Mubai had stepped into the ranks of the top monstrous geniuses. At the same time, some cultivators who did not know the truth also realized that the 9 monstrous geniuses who should not have appeared here must have come because of Li Mubai. And they could basically confirm that this was the intention of the immortal scripture sacred ground controller. Otherwise, it would be impossible to be so lucky to encounter the 9 monstrous geniuses. And the appearance of the 9 monstrous geniuses because of Li Mubai also made Dan Dinga's identity even more certain that he was Li Mubai. To be able to obtain 30 immortal scripture magic treasures at the same time, and to be able to grab them one by one, besides Li Mubai in the demonic realm, who else could do this? But why did the immortal scripture sacred ground controller do this? It was not something that everyone could measure. And in the third battle on the third day, Chen Hao powerfully displayed his ultimate move that shocked everyone, the great 5 elements art, and won again. On the 4th day, the 5th day, the 6th day, and the 7th day, every single battle stimulated everyone's nerves and bottom line, and every single battle could erupt with ultimate techniques that exceeded everyone's imagination. Extreme physical strength, terrifying soul attacks, pure and shocking slaughter will, and sword Dao will that was high to the point that it completely surpassed the golden immortal realm. Under Chen Hao's all-out performance, the controller of the immortal scripture sacred ground became more and more shocked. 5th Grand Elder Tian Wanxiang had long been numb. Such a scene, how could he still be his disciple? Or rather, how could he still be qualified to be his master, to teach and dispel doubts? This display of strength that was more and more beyond imagination made 5th Grand Elder Tian Wanxiang feel calmer and calmer. He felt that the feelings between him and Li Mubai were gradually fading. This was also a very helpless matter. Although they knew that Yi Shuwen was their own disciple, he had suddenly become another person that surpassed their understanding. In the end, it affected their hearts. If Chen Hao was weaker and did not display too many powerful divine abilities and ultimate moves, and did not display those exquisite combat skills, perhaps their feelings for Li Mubai would be deeper. But now, they knew that their disciple should be an outsider from the endless cycle of reincarnation, and had completely awakened. Although he was still under the control of his subconscious, but in this situation, once he awakened, it was impossible for him to return to the past. It was a very contradictory mentality. On his path to becoming an expert, without their blood, sweat, and tears, he would not be moved and resonated with. If they were his cultivation companions, accompanying and helping him along the way, witnessing his growth, the nature and feeling would be completely different. Zhou Qinglong, it's up to you. The 8 of us have been defeated consecutively. Whether or not we can regain some face, it's up to you. If you can't win, you can at least not lose. Tie him down. Yes. To be honest, I've never seen such a monstrous guy. I'm a little suspicious, whether it's because of the berserk demon realm. I'm also very suspicious. The appearance of the berserk demon realm in the Daluo Golden Wonderland is already very rare. After it appeared, being able to immerse himself in it is even more inconceivable. But he can actually do it as he pleases. When the battle is over, he completely erupts, and after the battle, all of his divine sense is sealed. It's fine if it's sealed, but through a battle, he can comprehend our ultimate moves. This is too much of a sissy, a monster. Also, did you hear that 300 years ago, he was still trash, not even worthy of carrying our shoes? Hee hee. You guys are so stupid. I've already thought of a possibility. It's normal for you guys to lose to Brother Little Egg. At this moment, Zhou Qinglong, this sissy, stretched out his orchid fingers, tilted his head, and rolled his eyes as he looked at everyone. Chapter 1004. What's possible? Yin Xian, who had just finished today's battle and was still covered in blood, asked immediately. He, who had obtained the Fire Lotus Immortal Seal, thought that even if he couldn't defeat the other 8 geniuses, he would at least have the upper hand, and his strength would definitely rank first. However, today, he was the one to fight, and the last one to fight was the sissy Zhou Qinglong. It's very simple. Brother Little Egg, it should be Li Mubai and Little White. Don't you think so? That's right. In the test of the Crystal Palace, he and his cultivation partner finished in less than a day, which is enough to prove that their understanding of the Immortal Sutra and their immortal fate is extremely strong. His cultivation partner, Nguyen Tan Lan, was able to obtain 3 Immortal Sutra magic treasures, which is also very good proof. Other than Li Mubai, no one else could have such a strong immortal fate. Yes, dumb, think about it, how could the Immortal Sutra Sanctuary stop Little White, who has such a strong immortal fate? That's what we don't understand. Zhou Qinglong, don't keep us in suspense, will it kill you to say it all in one breath? Hey, little Xian, he's not in a hurry, why are you in such a hurry? You have to eat one bite at a time, and speak one sentence at a time. Don't you think so? Don't you think so? Yin Xian glared at Zhou Qinglong angrily. After a long while, he could only say, You, go on, that's a good boy. Since the Grandpa Controller wants us to stop Little White from entering the Immortal Sutra Sanctuary, it must be because he doesn't want him to comprehend the real 3 Immortal Sutras. Trash. Go on. Little White is so handsome and has such a strong immortal fate, why does the controller hate him? Sissy, you fucker, after beating around the bush, it's still the same. What the fuck are you talking about? At this time, Xiang Tiange couldn't stand it anymore. Dumb. Can't you have some patience? Just by looking at this point, we can't figure it out, right? Then have you ever wondered why Little White was so weak 300 years ago, but now, he's stronger than you 8 idiots? Also, according to the news, Little White wasn't this handsome and charming before. Ioyo, he's really handsome. Don't worry, I'm a little excited when I think about it. He reconstructed his golden body and looked like a completely different person. What does this mean? Everyone was slightly taken aback. And Little White has defeated all of you in 8 battles over the past 8 days. Many of the divine abilities and laws that he used are legendary. Even the sect master of the Hunyuan sect wouldn't be able to use them. Little fools, have you thought of anything? Wasn't she very smart? Hee hee. This time, the 8 of them did not have any reaction to Zhou Qinglong's disgusting act. All of them frowned. Immediately, they looked towards the sissy and said, Endless cycle of reincarnation. Outsiders? There was a look of horror in everyone's eyes. Without a doubt, this was the only possibility that could explain why the controller had summoned them to stop Li Mubai, who had a strong immortal fate, from entering the sacred place of the Immortal Sutra. If that's the case, Why didn't the controller kill him directly? It's not as simple as you think. How strong is the vast 1,000 domains that could give birth to such a monstrous genius like Li Mubai? No one in the endless cycle of reincarnation can really kill him before he recovers to the realm he was at before he reincarnated. Since he has reincarnated to our vast 1,000 domains, with his current realm, even if he dies, he can only reincarnate here. When he awakens again, he will carry the memories of this life. Will he still be discovered by us? Once he steps into the cutting path true immortal, or the grand mist supremacy realm, with his terrifying talent, he can leave the vast 1,000 domains and leave a mark. If he bears a grudge against the controller, what will happen? That's right. The controller asked us to stop him, but did not directly block him outside. This is enough to show that the controller does not want to incur a grudge with him. If I'm not wrong, after the sacred place of the Immortal Sutra ends, he will be directly sent to the Hongmeng domain by the controller. And cut off the mark of our vast 1,000 domains. It seems that this is the only way. In that case, he can only enter the great world of CND, which is open to all vast 1,000 domains. The 9 monstrous geniuses were all existences who were about to step into the grand mist supremacy realm. They were all summoned back by the controller from the Hongmeng domain through the mark of the vast 1,000 domains. Naturally, they were very clear about the Hongmeng domain. Therefore, they quickly thought of the same thing as the 5th Grand Elder. Well, I'm going to prepare. Tomorrow. I'm going to have a good time with Little White. Little idiots, goodbye. Chi. After Zhou Qinglong finished speaking, he turned into a stream of light and disappeared directly from a tavern in the Immortal Sutra city. It seemed that he did not care that Li Mubai was an outsider at all. Damn pervert. Yin Xian scolded just after Zhou Qinglong left. Do you think this pervert can stop Li Mubai tomorrow? It depends on how you put it. The pervert's combat power is not as good as any of us, but it's impossible for any of us to win against him, unless it's a life and death battle at all costs. But if we fight him in the arena, I'm afraid we'll all lose. Well, this should be the reason why the controller put him last. However, I have a vague feeling that Li Mubai might have an even more shocking trump card. We've shown a new ability in each of the 8 matches. It's really a little scary. It's difficult to win, but it should be easy to stay undefeated. The damn pervert is an existence that can't be killed. Phew, in the palace, spring was still boundless, but a wisp of Chen Hao's mind was still thinking about the final battle tomorrow. He had already noticed the sissy Zhou Qinglong a long time ago. Chen Hao's powerful soul perception could clearly sense the boundless vitality surging within his body. What surprised him the most was that even the vitality released by the Dao manifestation immortal fruit tree was not as pure as this. Every single cell in his body was like a life of its own, and the vitality it possessed was beyond imagination. Until now, Chen Hao had not thought of a way to deal with Zhou Qinglong. He was definitely an unkillable cockroach. Unlike cockroaches, he was not only unkillable, he was also very powerful. Zhou Qinglong, the monstrous genius of the top sect, Green Lotus School. 10,000 years ago, he stepped into the complete Daoyuo Jingxian realm. He's an existence that the 8 monstrous geniuses are not willing to provoke. His combat power is the weakest among the 9, but his absolute power is not weaker than anyone else's. This is determined by his innate talent. I must enter the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra. How do I break it? Chen Hao had fought with the 8 monstrous geniuses for 8 consecutive days. He had shocked everyone, but the 8 of them had also shocked Chen Hao. Especially today's Yin Xian. His Fire Lotus Immortal Seal was so powerful that it made people's hair stand on end. Chen Hao, who was in a crazed state, had a hard time winning against him. And Zhou Qinglong was arranged to be the last, so he was obviously the most important one. Chapter 1005. I'll only see after the real fight. After pondering for a long time, Chen Hao combed through all the divine ability laws he had mastered. However, he still couldn't think of a way to deal with the sissy Zhou Qinglong. There was nothing he could do. Nguyen Tan Lan won the first 8 matches easily. Firstly, she was strong. Secondly, she was very lucky. The opponents randomly assigned to her were not on the same level as her at all. This was enough to prove that her immortal fate was very good. Moreover, every day that she appeared, Nguyen Tan Lan gave people a new feeling. 1 change in a day, 9 changes in 9 days, just like the 9 transformations of the divine silkworm. She changed every day. It had to be said that the fusion of yin and yang was an excellent cultivation method. Being able to choose such a heaven-defying freak like Chen Hao was a blessing that every female cultivator had accumulated over 100 lifetimes. Of course, this also required Nguyen Tan Lan to have a high level of comprehension. Otherwise, even if Chen Hao deliberately shared his supernatural power and cultivation comprehension during the fusion of soul and body, if her comprehension was poor, she would not be able to understand much. Similarly, Chen Hao did not seal himself and transform into a mortal like he did with the sisters. He comprehended together with them to improve their comprehension and potential from the root. Chen Hao had the mentality of compensating Nguyen Tan Lan. He instilled all the knowledge into her. Although this was a little excessive, it was undoubtedly the way to let Nguyen Tan Lan improve at the fastest speed and obtain the greatest benefits in the shortest time. Chen Hao did not know how the master of the immortal scripture Holy Land would deal with him in the end. He would be an outsider, but he knew that he would not be allowed to continue awakening and growing in the vast 1,000 chaotic worlds. Chen Hao still understood this basic common sense. However, he, Li Mubai, Zhao Guyu, and the others had very limited knowledge of the Hongmeng domain. Otherwise, with Chen Hao's shrewdness, he would naturally be able to predict his ending. Let's go, let's go. Quick, quick. Today's duel will definitely be more exciting. The earlier we get there, the earlier we can get a seat. Damn it, I don't have the qualifications to enter the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra, but to be able to enjoy such a peak battle, this trip was not in vain. That's right, let's go. Chi 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 chi. Before dawn, the 510,000 cultivators who had been eliminated in the final competition went to the Immortal Scripture City's core martial arts practice field in advance. Today, there were only 2,000 cultivators left. The 1,000 who won would obtain the qualifications to enter the Immortal Sutra Holy Land. So far, only 4 people remained in the Hunyuan sect: Sita Qian, Zhang Chong, Nguyen Tan Lan, and Li Mubai. Zhang Chong's strength was not enough, but he, who had obtained the Immortal Sutra magic treasure, was assigned to very weak opponents in every round. Even so, as the number of people decreased, the remaining ones would become stronger and stronger. However, everything seemed to have been calculated. The other weaker cultivators would be extremely lucky to encounter weak opponents and make it to the last few rounds. Then, they would be used as puppets for people like Zhang Chong to win. This could only be said to be extremely lucky. Of course, this luck naturally could not be true great luck, but the luck condensed by the master of the Immortal Scripture City. Since ancient times, there had been no precedent of disciples who had obtained the Immortal Sutra magic treasure not being able to enter the Immortal Scripture Holy Land. Li Mubai has encountered the 9 great evildoers in every round. Today, he will definitely meet Zhou Qinglong. That's for sure. I really don't know what's going on. This is obviously deliberately arranged. Everyone can see that the 9 great evildoers were originally impossible to appear here. Now that they have returned and are all fighting with Li Mubai, it's obviously an arrangement aimed at him. Perhaps the master of the Immortal Scripture City deliberately let these evildoers exchange pointers. Probably. They are all destined to be awesome people in the future of our chaotic boundless world. They have been deliberately cultivated by the master of the Immortal Scripture City. How enviable. Who do you think will win, Li Mubai or Zhou Qinglong? Of course it's Li Mubai. The 8 great evildoers have been defeated by Li Mubai. How can Zhou Qinglong be an exception? It is said that among the 9 great evildoers, Zhou Qinglong's combat power is the worst. That sissy, cough cough, it's a pity for his talent. You're wrong. Haven't you heard that the 8 great evildoers are most afraid of Zhou Qinglong? Zhou Qinglong's combat power is indeed the worst, but he is the most difficult to deal with. The 8 great evildoers do not dare to provoke him. In the arena battle, none of the 8 great evildoers can defeat him. Similarly, Li Mubai is also difficult. No way. You are relatively young. Zhou Qinglong achieved the title of a peak chaotic evildoer 10,000 years ago and stepped into the Hongmeng region. After disappearing for so long, you may not know the true power of Zhou Qinglong. He is an unkillable monster. Mubai, you must win. Today, your opponent should be one of the 9 great evildoers, Zhou Qinglong. I really don't know why we will meet each other. This is obviously a deliberate arrangement. Could it be because of the 30 Immortal Sutras? I asked Master, and he said that there may be something hidden. Your 2 masters are silent and did not explain, but they seem to know something. At dawn, Nguyen Tan Lan and Chen Hao flew over hand in hand. As they flew, they communicated telepathically. Chen Hao naturally could not answer her. Nguyen Tan Lan did not expect, or rather, did not want Chen Hao to answer her. If he answered, it meant that he was awake. What did being awake mean? Nguyen Tan Lan would still think about that feeling some time ago. Now, she did not dare to think about it. She did not want to think about it. Everyone was selfish. If it was losing, she would rather Li Mubai never wake up. She would rather he be with her forever. Chi. A bright green light suddenly caught up with Chen Hao and Nguyen Tan Lan from behind. Alright, little Lan Lan, you're so lucky. I'm so envious. Little Bai Bai is so handsome and strong. You should be happy. Don't mind me later. I'll have a good time with little Bai Bai. Hee hee. I've waited for 8 days. I'm so looking forward to it. Oh, so handsome, Chi. Nguyen Tan Lan looked at this pervert who came without warning and felt uncomfortable. Without saying anything, she held Chen Hao's hand and suddenly sped up. At the same time, she set up a seal around the 2 of them. Annoying. I will not steal your man. So petty, humph. Zhou Qinglong stroked her with his orchid fingers and said, coquettishly. However, when Nguyen Tan Lan and Chen Hao were far away, his eyes flashed with an undetectable light. He slowly stretched out his soft, feminine hand. A strand of hair the length of a thumb appeared in his palm. Humph, I am very curious about how the Grandpa Controller will treat Little White. I can only do something to you, hee hee. This was a strand of Nguyen Tan Lan's hair. As long as he could sense the life energy in this strand of hair, he could lock onto Nguyen Tan Lan. No matter where she was, she could not escape his surveillance. Yin Xian, Xiang Tianga, and the other 8 masters were most afraid of Zhou Qinglong pestering them. It was also because of Zhou Qinglong's perverted ability. Chapter 1006. Qi. Ouch! Zhou Qinglong, who was looking at a section of Nguyen Tan Lan's hair proudly, suddenly widened his eyes and screamed. A section of Nguyen Tan Lan's hair suddenly burst into flames that contained the mysteries of the fiery lotus celestial seal, and it spontaneously burned into ashes. Little White. It must be Little White's doing. It scared me to death. How did he find out? Did he find out? He's so powerful. Zhou Qinglong did not dare to directly take the hair that contained the aura of life from Chen Hao's body. Instead, he chose Nguyen Tan Lan because the aura around Chen Hao's body, especially his physical body, made him feel that even a strand of hair contained a terrifying amount of blood energy and energy. If he were to steal a section of hair, he would not be able to fool everyone. With his cultivation level, it would be very easy for him to tamper with Nguyen Tan Lan's body. However, he did not expect that it would be destroyed. Little White is immersed in the realm of madness. How could he find out? Could it be? Ouch, he's Earth Daddy. Zhou Qinglong's eyes shone with shock. He thought of a possibility, and his orchid fingers trembled a little. Chi. 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 Beams of immortal light gushed out from the center of the huge martial arts arena. 1,000 arenas that were several times larger than the previous ones slowly rose up. The final round of the competition was about to begin. Countless cultivators had already filled the martial arts arena, waiting for the arrival of today's exciting battle. Out of 512,000 people, only 2,000 had qualified for the 9th round of the competition. 510,000 people had become spectators. At the spectator stand for the big shots of the cultivation world, they opened their eyes in anticipation and looked in the direction of Chen Hao and the sissy Zhou Qinglong. Although many people did not know the reason, they knew that Li Mubai would definitely face the last of the 9 great evildoers, Zhou Qinglong. There was no doubt that, apart from the disciples who were still qualified to participate in the competition, the most important thing today was the battle between Li Mubai and Zhou Qinglong. Today's final battle, the winner will be qualified to enter the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra. Begin. Buzz. Chi. Chi. 2,000 people, 2,000 tokens automatically left the control of the crowd and flew back to their respective arenas. Chen Hao still chased the tokens directly. Little, I'm so excited. Chi. The sissy Zhou Qinglong seemed to be even more excited. When his voice that gave people goosebumps rang out, his entire body turned into a dark green crystal. Just like Chen Hao, he chased after the token and ascended the arena. Zhou Qinglong, Li Mubai, the time limit for your battle is at sunset, when the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra opens. If the winner is not decided by then all of you will be eliminated. For the missing person, the old man will directly choose one of the people present according to the immortal fate. Crash! What everyone did not expect was that the phantom of the Immortal Sutra city controller would say such words at this time. Obviously, he was very clear about Zhou Qinglong's ability and concluded that it would be difficult to determine the winner of this battle in a short period of time. That was why he said such words. This also caused the crowd to suddenly burst into a heated discussion. Especially those who understood Zhou Qinglong's situation, they felt that the Immortal Sutra city controller, from the beginning until now, was completely set up obstacles for the newly risen super monster Li Mubai. He did not want to let him enter the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra at all. However, there were not many who could figure out why, especially these contestants. Hey, Grandpa Controller, you also look down on me. I will definitely be able to settle Little White before nightfall. Zhou Qinglong stretched out his orchid fingers and twisted his, but as he looked at the figure in the void and said. It had to be said that in this guy's eyes, there was no fear at all. Even if it was the controller of the Immortal Sutra city, his true colors could be done freely. Chen Hao, whose eyes were empty, naturally did not respond. But in his heart, it was not the case at all. Begin. The controller did not talk nonsense with Zhou Qinglong and directly ordered. Boom. 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 At this moment, a terrifying energy roar suddenly erupted from the 1,000-square arena. In the final battle, the winner would enter and the loser would leave the Immortal Sutra city. Every cultivator no longer dared to hold back and took out the heroic spirit of a life-and-death battle, violently attacking. Nguyen Tan Lan, who had something in her heart, directly activated the Immortal Sutra magic treasure after sensing the most powerful aura since the start of the competition. This time, she displayed the true strength that she had crazily improved during this period of time. She wanted to end this battle quickly. She was very clear that if Li Mubai won this battle, she could still enter the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra with him and obtain even greater improvement. She could also be with him for 1,000 years. Yes, 1,000 years. The sacred land of the Immortal Sutra was only 10 years, but the space-time laws inside were 100 times that of the outside world. 10 years was 1,000 years. But if Li Mubai failed, regardless of whether he woke up or not, last night might have been the last time she and Li Mubai would be reunited, a kind of feeling that could not be cut, that was still in chaos, that had never appeared in the heart of Nguyen Tan Lan, who pursued the peak of martial arts and prioritized her own cultivation interests, filled Nguyen Tan Lan's heart. Boom! Roar! Hey! Little white, be gentle, I'll be shy, chi. In the arena where Chen Hao and Zhou Qinglong were, the battle also began at this moment. Until now, he had not thought of a way to deal with Zhou Qinglong, causing Chen Hao to enter the state of madness without any hesitation. He directly raised his strength to the most violent and ferocious state, and with a thrust of his spear, he used the Great Five Elements technique on the Overlord's spear. At this time, Zhou Qinglong's aura did not change in the slightest, nor did it violently soar. Seeing Chen Hao's tyrannical spear attack, this fellow actually continued to ridicule him with his disgusting voice. At the same time, with a twist of his slender waist and a stretch of his orchid fingers, a bewitching flower emitting a dark green crystal light bloomed between his orchid fingers. At this moment, the world suddenly darkened. All the practitioners who were paying attention to this battle were shocked to feel that there was only that bewitching green flower left between heaven and earth. Beautiful, a beauty that could cause the downfall of a city, a beauty that could overturn heaven and earth, and disturb yin and yang. No one could describe how beautiful this flower was. It seemed to contain all the mysteries and true meanings of life, making people feel as if they were in a boundless spring, as if they were bathing in the spring breeze. It was also as if they had seen the most mysterious source of life between heaven and earth, and their soul consciousness was deeply intoxicated in it. Buzz! Chen Hao's eyes, which were as red as blood, actually glowed with a dark green light when he saw the bewitching dark green flowers. There was a buzzing sound in his mind, which caused the spear he violently thrust out to tremble slightly. Before he realized it, his divine thoughts had separated from the spear light, and it was beyond his control. Chapter 1007. Rumble. Rumble, the enchanting green flower gently met with the domineering spear radiance. The flower withered on its own as if it did not contain any energy. However, Chen Hao's violent spear directly exploded and destroyed the entire space. The terrifying explosion and raging energy made the immortal light guarding the arena tremble violently. There was a huge fluctuation on the ground of the entire arena. However, Zhou Qinglong twisted his slender waist and laughed coquettishly. He stroked the flower with his fingers and appeared to be at ease. He was not attacked by any energy. Amazing. Fuck, what a freak. He's so strong. When the enchanting green flower was submerged in Chen Hao's terrifying spear radiance, the onlookers also came to their senses and looked at this shocking scene in horror. At this moment, many of the eliminated cultivators finally understood how terrifying Zhou Qinglong, the monstrous genius whose name had shaken the entire chaotic colossal world 10,000 years ago, was. The flower with his fingers did not seem to have used any powerful energy, but it dissolved Li Mubai's terrifying spear radiance into nothingness. This feeling was really frightening. To be exact, Li Mubai's violent attack was completely under the confusion of the enchanting green flower. He lost control of his divine thoughts and self-detonated. Roar! Rumble! Chen Hao, whose eyes were red again, took a step forward and directly became one with his spear. In a flash, he disappeared from everyone's sight. The great teleportation technique. Chi! After a moment of sparks, Chen Hao appeared again and was already in front of Zhou Qinglong. He stabbed his spear directly. Whether it was the speed, the energy contained, or the divine sense, it was so powerful that it made people's hair stand on end. Even the onlookers such as Xiang Tianga and Yin Xian gasped. They could clearly sense that Li Mubai had launched his fiercest, strongest, and most violent attack at the beginning of the battle, and he had combined many terrifying skills with it. However, although they were surprised, they, who were familiar with Zhou Qinglong, didn't do anything to Zhou Qinglong because of the great teleportation technique. However, the other cultivators all cried out in shock at this moment. Puff! Rumble! Zhou Qinglong's body, which was sticking out his butt, tilting his head, and extending his fingers like an orchid. He even had a charming smile on his face. However, Chen Hao's spear pierced through his body and turned it into a rain of light that filled the sky. It was as if he had been too careless and failed to react in time, causing his physical body to be destroyed. Hee hee. Little White, you're so fierce, you're such a good man. I like you so much. However, just as everyone was in a daze, Zhou Qinglong's voice came from another direction. It was still a voice that was extremely disgusting, and the words he spoke caused many men to have goosebumps all over their bodies. But at this time, they were even more shocked. Green. How can the destruction of a physical body be green? So it's an illusion. Wrong. That's not an illusion, it's a real body that has been destroyed. However, it's a body formed by a strand of Zhou Qinglong's hair, a strand of nose hair, or some other hair. Someone revealed the truth. Little White, come on, fuck me harder. Use all your strength. Hee hee. A handsome brother like you makes me feel so good. Come on, I want more, blurg, puff. The shocked cultivators originally looked at Zhou Qinglong with fear and admiration from the depths of their hearts. However, Zhou Qinglong's butt was facing Chen Hao, and his small mouth was covered. His face was full of shyness and lewd words, causing countless cultivators to feel their stomachs churn. Fuck, this fucking pervert, he's so disgusting. But, this is really fucking satisfying. Li Mubai is really strong. This fucking pervert probably doesn't have any confidence in defeating him before sunset. That's right. If he had 30% confidence, this fucking pervert wouldn't be stalling like this and not even attacking. The 8 monsters secretly conversed. To put it bluntly, Zhou Qinglong's terrifying ability was not offensive at all. It was completely using his innate ability to stall for time with Chen Hao. He would not lose much energy even if he persisted until sunset. At most, he would lose a few dozen or 100 strands of hair that would grow back after some time. Fuck. No one knew that Chen Hao, who was in the demonic realm, was cursing in his heart. There's actually such a perverted guy. Is this his innate ability? Chen Hao could be said to have used his strongest attack after several consecutive attacks. If it had been anyone else among the 8 monsters, they would have been defeated by now. However, he had not even touched Zhou Qinglong's body. It's even purer than the vitality emitted by the Dao manifestation immortal fruit tree. The mystery must be in his physical body. Come on, Little White, come and fuck me, fuck, I don't believe it. Today, I'll fuck you to death. Chen Hao, who had temporarily stopped attacking, was truly disgusted when he saw Zhou Qinglong's despicable appearance with his buttocks sticking out at him again. Chen Hao could feel that this guy was not really a pervert. He just wanted to use this posture to disgust others. Chi. Chen Hao pushed the great teleportation technique to the extreme this time, but the power around him was different from the previous attacks that were concentrated in a single line. Instead, he drew a sphere with a diameter of 10,000 miles in an instant and stabbed out with his spear. Chi. Chen Hao's teleportation speed became faster and faster. Before the last afterimage disappeared, a new afterimage had already appeared. Gradually, thousands of afterimages formed a sphere of Chen Hao in the space of 10,000 miles in diameter. Endless spear flares shot densely at Zhou Qinglong, who was either the real body or the hairy clone. At this moment, everyone gasped in shock. Ouch! Ouch! Even the sissy's voice was no longer as calm as before. He seemed to be a little panicked as he kept calling out. Other than the words "Io," he was unable to say anything else that was coherent. Bang bang bang. Passing through the dense illusory figures, everyone's eyes widened and a strange look appeared on their faces. Many people quivered and could not help but suck in their anus, afraid that Li Mubai's spear flares would stab them. What kind of scene was that? Zhou Qinglong, who was originally sticking out his buttocks and facing Chen Hao, had now become the same as before. He kept screaming "ouch," and then Chen Hao's spear flares kept stabbing into his buttocks. The city burst into green light. Mubai, you must win. You must win. Nguyen Tan Lan, who ended the battle quickly, had separated the crowd and came to the front of the ring. She stared at the thousands of shadows of Chen Hao and said over and over again in her heart, Zhou Qinglong was too abnormal. She knew that Li Mubai's crazy consumption could not last long, but she did not know how to make it effective. Chapter 1008. Too strong, a true monster, the Daluo Golden Wonderland. Who can match him? Countless people looked at Chen Hao, who was in a crazed state, and their hearts were filled with shock. Today, until today, the strength that Chen Hao displayed was his most terrifying strength. The previous 8 matches paled in comparison to this, and the difference was not just by a little. The 8 monsters were certain that if they were to face Li Mubai's violent and reckless attacks, they would be riddled with holes in an instant. It's a pity. Zhou Qinglong is an unkillable monster. He won't be able to last long, that's right. In the end, there's no need to wait until sunset. Zhou Qinglong only needs to counterattack when his energy is exhausted and he'll win. That's why. Zhou Qinglong is still more abnormal. Zhou Qinglong is a little too disgusting, but he's really abnormal. I want to stab him in the anus. It's a pity that Li Mubai didn't even stab his real body. A draw means a loss. Is there really no other way? Even though Chen Hao's energy was terrifyingly boundless, in a short 2 minutes, Chen Hao could clearly feel his energy rapidly depleting. If this continued, it wouldn't be long before he ran out of energy. Sunset. There's still 10 hours left. Why should I be in such a hurry? It's only useful if I think of a way to break it. Roar. Thinking of this, Chen Hao suddenly let out a roar that resounded through the heavens and earth. His rapidly flashing figure suddenly stopped and he opened his mouth. At this moment, the pores all over his body seemed to become tiny vortexes, madly devouring the energy that was wreaking havoc between heaven and earth because of him. Chi 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 chi. At this moment, Chen Hao's body once again began to expand at a terrifying speed. Devouring energy would make one's body bigger. Even the energy released by Chen Hao was the same. Once one's own energy came into contact with heaven and earth, there would be a mysterious change. If one wanted to devour it back, the only way was to refine it again. If that wasn't the case, it would be too easy for cultivators to recover during battle. Chen Hao's body naturally wouldn't have swelled up because he couldn't refine it for the time being. "Io, little white, continue, continue, it's so good, so good, so good. How can you stop? Come on, come on." Just as all the spear lights disappeared, Zhou Qinglong's disgusting voice rang out once again. Huh? Li Mubai is starting to devour energy to recover. Is this still the demonic realm? Someone in the crowd exclaimed. It was reasonable to say that the berserk demon realm was dominated by the subconscious. Combat power, perception, reaction, and other abilities could be increased by several times. The only thing that could not be used was tactics. But now, Chen Hao actually began to recover even though he clearly hadn't used up all his energy. This was more or less beyond everyone's expectations. He has immersed himself in the demonic realm. Including the effects of the space-time laws, it has been hundreds of years, close to 1,000 years. Even if it's his subconscious, I'm afraid that he has already analyzed it. Or perhaps, it's an instinctive reaction to the consumption of energy that is causing him to begin to recover. But no matter what, this Li Mubai is simply too powerful. Chi 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 chi. Chen Hao allowed his body to expand crazily, devouring the berserk energy between heaven and earth. A small part of his mind was locked onto the coquettish Zhou Qinglong, preventing him from suddenly counterattacking. After all, Zhou Qinglong's absolute strength was definitely not weak. If he counterattacked, he would have to deal with it with all his strength. And the majority of his mind was integrated into the energy, carefully sensing and searching. He wanted to capture Zhou Qinglong's energy, perhaps he could find a breakthrough. But what surprised Chen Hao was that within the berserk energy, there wasn't a trace of Zhou Qinglong's aura, let alone finding it to comprehend. What kind of monster is this? Chen Hao was truly shocked. According to his thoughts, even if he shattered Zhou Qinglong's fake body, there should be more or less some traces left, but there wasn't even a trace. It was as if what he shattered was air, and it was all his own performance. Little White, this is very boring. You have to think carefully. At sunset, if you don't defeat him, you won't have the chance to enter the immortal scripture Holy Land. It's the immortal scripture Holy Land, don't you want to? I used to like it very much. But now, I don't care. A draw doesn't affect me much. Come on, come on, come on, I promise I won't fight back. Then you should recover. Hurry, recover with all your strength. I'm waiting for you. Seeing that Li Mubai didn't have any reaction, Zhou Qinglong hummed and said. After saying that, he actually held his chin and looked at Chen Hao affectionately, as if he was waiting patiently. Chen Hao was slightly taken aback. Does this guy really have no intention of making a move? If that's the case, I can give it a try. Hiss, an imperceptible aura suddenly emitted from between Chen Hao's eyebrows. In the violent fluctuations of the energy of heaven and earth, even a Tao-severing perfected immortal would not be able to detect it if he did not consciously search for it. I'd like to see what kind of mysteries your physical body contains. Chen Hao thought to himself. He could feel that except for the moment when he shattered the other party's fake body, at all other times, whether it was the soul origin or the physical body's aura, they were completely one. In other words, the Zhou Qinglong he saw now was Zhou Qinglong. There was no mistake. Chen Hao's powerful soul perception was certain of this. However, Chen Hao still didn't understand how he changed his fake body the moment he shattered it, and how his real body directly appeared in another place. But now, Chen Hao's tiny strand of divine thought was like silk being peeled out of a cocoon. It continuously integrated into heaven and earth bit by bit, extending in all directions toward Zhou Qinglong, interweaving into a net until there was no gap left. Chen Hao believed that even if a cell passed by, he would be able to capture it. Hiss. It was also at this moment that Chen Hao moved. His huge body suddenly stopped devouring energy and disappeared into thin air, leaving no trace of his aura behind. Dan Dinga. This is Dan Dinga. It's really him. Someone in the crowd suddenly exclaimed. When Chen Hao had obtained the 30th magic treasure, he had used this unique skill to disappear into thin air without a trace of fluctuation before leaving. Although everyone was sure that it was Li Mubai before, it was all speculation after all, and there was no proof. But now, Li Mubai had exposed the unique skill that he had used at that time, causing many people to exclaim in surprise. Ouch! At this moment, Zhou Qinglong suddenly exclaimed. His expression changed, and his body bloomed with a bright green light. There are only 9 votes today. I beg for monthly votes with tears streaming down my face. Chapter 1009. Boom! It was also at this moment that Chen Hao strangely appeared beside Zhou Qinglong. The moment his green energy burst out, Chen Hao also jumped out from his hidden state of merging with all things in the world. His violent finger-guessing fist turned into a claw and clawed out. The massive palm contained a terrifying amount of soul force, true essence, and essence energy. Resplendent runes covered the palm, as if they wanted to seal the world. Ouch! Bang! Zhou Qinglong screamed, but before he could finish his signature ouch, he was crushed in Chen Hao's huge palm. Hey! Little White, you're so scary, what? This time, Chen Hao was completely shocked. Even with the inescapable net's divine sense blockade, he still couldn't sense any aura of Zhou Qinglong. How was this possible? Impossible. Could it be that he can travel through time and space in an instant? Travel through time and space. Other than this explanation, Chen Hao really couldn't think of how Zhou Qinglong could pass through his divine sense net silently. But if it was time and space travel, how could there be no fluctuation of time and space aura before the travel? Chi. For the time being, Qin Hao, who had no other way, knew that he couldn't go on like this. With a shake of his body, he suddenly disappeared silently again. This time, although he couldn't find a breakthrough, the look of shock that flashed across Zhou Qinglong's face let Qin Hao know that his attack was still effective. Then, he would use a faster and more ruthless attack, not giving him any time to breathe. Perhaps only in this way could he force his opponent to reveal a flaw. Bang! Boom! Chi! Bang! Boom! Next, everyone's nerves were like a taut string. They watched Qin Hao flicker again and again, and Zhou Qinglong collapse again and again, but reappear again and again. Minutes and seconds passed. Qin Hao couldn't remember how many times he had attacked, but at least 1,000 times. When Qin Hao killed Zhou Qinglong again and Zhou Qinglong appeared in the distance again, Zhou Qinglong suddenly stroked his orchid fingers again, and the same enchanting green flower was born from his fingertips again. At this moment, most of the onlookers couldn't help but be attracted by this enchanting green flower again. Humph, you can do it once, but you want to do it again? Buzz! The moment the green flower appeared, Qin Hao's eyebrows suddenly bloomed with a jade-like light. His strong spiritual altar was untainted by dust, and all kinds of wills were raised to the peak level by Qin Hao in an instant. What was more shocking was that Qin Hao's blood-red, empty eyes, which contained endless pain, emitted a charming 7-colored light at this moment. The peak of the 10th level of the Red Dust Heart Sutra. Die. Chi. This time, Qin Hao didn't show any signs of being in a trance, nor was he attracted by the enchanting green flower. Under the attack of the great teleportation technique, he once again blasted Zhou Qinglong to death. At the same time, the green flower exploded, and rays of green light that seemed to contain endless vitality burst out in all directions. Ouch! Ah! At this moment, what shocked everyone, and what made Qin Hao's eyes suddenly become even more resplendent, was that Zhou Qinglong, who had appeared once again, seemed to be formed from the green light that had burst out from the green flower. The moment he appeared, he was in the exact same direction as the green light. After reappearing, he was very close to Qin Hao for the first time. So it's this flower? Because the distance was too close, many of the green light that burst out from the green flower blasted onto Qin Hao's body. There was no lethality, and it was just pure light. Qin Hao didn't care at all, but at this moment, what surprised him was that in the macro world of his mind, the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree suddenly attacked the barrier of his macro world violently, as if it wanted to connect the 9 heavens and 10 earths and extend out from Qin Hao's mind. Could it be that it wants to absorb? After this thought flashed through Qin Hao's mind, he didn't think much and opened a link between the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree and the outside world. At this moment, green tentacles suddenly stretched out from between his eyebrows. The moment they appeared, they grew in the wind and swallowed the green light that burst out from the green flower with a sizzling sound. However, they didn't show any signs of stopping. Qin Hao didn't even need to control them. The green tentacles were like swimming dragons, rushing toward Zhou Qinglong at lightning speed. Ah! At this moment, Zhou Qinglong's sissy voice completely disappeared, and he burst out with a roar of horror. Boom! Finally! Zhou Qinglong raised his strength to the peak for the first time. With a wave of his hand, he blasted the green tentacles with a power that could collapse mountains and fill seas, breaking space and shattering stars. Crack! Crack! The tentacles broke and shattered, and Zhou Qinglong moved away from Qin Hao like a bolt of lightning. He seemed to be extremely wary of the green tentacles, and he continuously laid down countless layers of stellar energy around himself. Roar! As the newly grown tentacles madly rushed toward Zhou Qinglong again, Qin Hao also raised his strength to the peak and charged at Zhou Qinglong. Hiss! But at this moment, a dazzling immortal light suddenly poured down from the void. Zhou Qinglong has lost. Congratulations, Li Mubai, you have earned the right to enter the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra. What? The voice of the master of the Immortal Sutra city in the void made most cultivators look surprised and puzzled. The result had not been decided yet, so how could Li Mubai have won? You can actually. Zhou Qinglong's eyes were wide open, and he finally looked like a man. He looked at Qin Hao with a shocked expression, but he didn't say anything else. The other 8 monstrous geniuses were also shocked. Hiss! Hiss! Green tentacles extended from Qin Hao's glabella, but they could not get any closer under the master's immortal light. However, they were still struggling desperately, as if they wanted to break through the seal and get closer to Zhou Qinglong. At the same time, countless tentacles extended in all directions, devouring all the energy in the arena. The master's phantom did not stop the tentacles from devouring other parts of Qin Hao's body apart from protecting Zhou Qinglong. Qin Hao seemed to have stopped attacking after being blocked by the immortal light, but he was very excited. That was because his mind had already merged with the Dao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Tree, so he could clearly sense what the Dao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Tree was doing. He also understood why Zhou Qinglong could not die. The bewitching flower. The green light emitted by the bewitching flower was the life substitute that Zhou Qinglong had scattered all over the arena. Zhou Qinglong's primordial spirit was perfectly compatible with every hidden ball of light. In other words, Zhou Qinglong did not have a physical body at all. Instead, he was an immortal tree that contained a higher level of vitality than the Dao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Tree. However, the immortal tree was still very weak and could not resist the Dao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Tree's devouring of the same source of energy. As long as the Dao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Tree devoured this energy, it could evolve. Chapter 10:10. Mubai. Qi. Nguyen Tan Lan rushed excitedly to Qin Hao's side when the Dao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Tree vanished from between Qin Hao's brows and the barrier of immortal light opened. She'd been in so much despair that she'd lost all hope. She hadn't expected the tables to turn. Her joy was indescribable. All right, the old man will send you back. Remember, even if you can't be friends with Li Mubai, you can't be enemies with him. Don't provoke him if you run into him. The Immortal Scripture City Master transmitted his voice to the 9 monsters. Grandpa Master, what is he? Why can he sense me and devour me? The Dao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Tree. It's grown to a terrifying level. Its life origin energy can grow to the same level as your physical life origin, but that's only its subsidiary ability. Dao Manifestation, its greatest strength is the condensation of endless Dao laws. As long as its cultivator's potential reaches that level, there's no limit to its growth. Impressive, truly impressive. The Dao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Tree is rooted in the Soul Origin brand and is bound to the endless cycle of reincarnation. Even the old man isn't confident he can achieve such a feat. Alright, remember the old man's words. Don't be enemies with it. Just let him leave on his own. Master, do you mean to send him to the Hongmeng domain? Of course. Haven't you guessed it already? Go. Chi 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 chi, 9 beams of immortal light suddenly enveloped the 9 monsters. Soon after, a space-time tunnel with a terrifying aura opened, and the 9 of them disappeared into it. The 1,000 disciples who have qualified to enter the Immortal Scripture City remain. The others, please leave with your sect masters, grand elders, and other mighty figures. The Immortal Scripture City will close in 15 minutes. Qi. Qi. In the Hunyuan sect, the 5th Grand Elder, Tian Wanxiang, Gao Xiangcheng, and the others quickly came to the side of their respective disciples. The 5th Grand Elder, Tian Wanxiang, and Gao Xiangcheng naturally came together because of Qin Hao and Nguyen Tan Lan. Disciple, 5th Grand Elder Tian Wanxiang looked at Qin Hao with a complicated expression and shouted at the same time. I originally thought that you would be able to inherit my legacy. But I didn't expect that I no longer have anything worth passing on to you. It's over before it even started. At least we're fated to be master and disciple. Regardless of whether you like it or not, I'll leave it behind for you. This is my life's comprehension. Perhaps it'll still be of some use to you now. The fifth Grand Elder stared at Qin Hao's empty eyes as he spoke with a hint of sadness and desolation. After he finished speaking, a light flashed between his eyebrows, and a jade slip emitting a sparkling purple light appeared in his hand. The fifth Grand Elder reached out and took Qin Hao's hand, placing it in Qin Hao's hand. Qi! At this moment, two bright lights flashed between Qin Hao's eyebrows. One light took the jade slip that clearly contained the Tao marks that the fifth Grand Elder had learned and comprehended in his life into his mind. The other light wrapped around two magic treasures that bloomed with the might of the immortal scripture and slowly floated in front of the fifth Grand Elder, Tian Wanxiang. Qin Hao really wanted to say something to the two of them, but in the end, he held back. He just took out the immortal scripture magic treasures and presented them to the two of them, and then there was no more reaction. Immortal scripture magic treasures. Gao Xiangqing said excitedly. Master doesn't need this. Keep it for yourself. The slightly surprised fifth Grand Elder said without thinking. I don't need it either. Tian Wanxiang was originally holding it in his hand, but at this moment, he hurriedly said. The two of them were very moved, especially the fifth Grand Elder. He hadn't recognized Li Mubai as his disciple for long, but in his subconscious state, Li Mubai actually took out the immortal scripture magic treasures to show his filial piety to them. One could imagine their position in Li Mubai's heart, but no matter how the two of them tried to stuff it into Li Mubai's hands, Li Mubai didn't put it away. Nguyen Tan Lan stared blankly, ripples in her heart. Was this his subconscious mind, or was there a trace of consciousness? Qing Lan, Li Mubai. Maybe there's a problem. But when there's an opportunity, we have to grasp it. He should be able to go in and comprehend the immortal scripture's sacred land. Let's go with him. We'll take it one step at a time. Master, what's going on with Mubai? Sigh. Although I felt strange at first, I didn't think too much about it. Later, the 9 great geniuses stopped him in succession, which was too puzzling. Fifth Grand Elder and Elder Tian didn't explain and looked worried. Later, many powerful figures speculated that Li Mubai is probably a cultivator from another greater thousand world, who came from the endless reincarnation. If nothing goes wrong, the controller will send him out of the chaotic greater thousand world and strip him of the imprint of the chaotic greater thousand world. Sigh. Qing Lan, you've been smart since childhood to choose him, and now. I don't know if it's good or bad, but since you've already reached this step, you don't have to worry about anything, and do your best to improve yourself. He has all kinds of legendary unique skills. Even if he doesn't teach you, you can still comprehend a lot from the fusion of yin and yang. The immortal scripture's sacred land, 1,000 years of time, don't waste it. Nguyen Tan Lan's eyes widened as she listened to Gao Xiangqing's words, and her face became very pale in an instant. When she heard her master say that Li Mubai would be sent out of the chaotic greater thousand world, her mind became blank. Even if she transmitted her voice, she didn't hear the rest of Gao Xiangqing's words. Time's up. Please leave immediately. The controller's shadow issued an ultimatum. The fifth great elder and Tian Wanxiang held the immortal scripture magic treasure that Qin Hao forcibly gave to them. They took a deep look at it, and then turned into two streamers. Gao Xiangqing didn't know whether to be happy or disappointed. He looked at Nguyen Tan Lan, who seemed to have lost her soul, with mixed feelings. After sending out a wisp of Dao sound to wake her up, he shook his head and left. 1,000 years, don't I still have 1,000 years? Nguyen Tan Lan suddenly woke up from her master's Dao sound, which was directly transmitted into the depths of her soul. What happened to me just now? How can this be? I'm pursuing the peak of martial arts. The great Tao is ruthless. The great Tao is ruthless. Nguyen Tan Lan didn't know that at this moment, Qin Hao's empty eyes were sizing her up. When Qin Hao saw the crystal light and sharpness in her eyes, he felt a little conflicted because of Nguyen Tan Lan's soulless look, but he immediately relaxed. Similarly, Qin Hao also didn't know that Nguyen Tan Lan woke up so quickly because of some kind of mysterious Tao sound that his master deliberately added. The great Tao is merciless. A piece of paper, which was not pierced through, caused countless years of waiting and disappointment, of course, that belonged to Nguyen Tan Lan. Qin Hao might occasionally think of his experience in the vast thousand chaotic worlds, but he didn't have any regrets. At least, that was what he thought. Everyone had their own pursuits, and it was enough to give her what she wanted most. It was a wrong combination. He had no regrets, and he didn't let his conscience down. Chapter 10-11. Qing Lan. Just as Nguyen Tan Lan gently held Qin Hao's hand and was about to leave the arena, a figure suddenly appeared beside them and stared at Nguyen Tan Lan. "What's the matter, senior brother Situ?" Nguyen Tan Lan frowned slightly. "You should have received the news, right?" Situ Qian looked directly at Nguyen Tan Lan and said, "He's just an outsider. You and him won't be together. In the past, Sorry. I still have something to do." Chi. Although Nguyen Tan Lan still maintained the last bit of etiquette, her gaze towards Situ Qian was already full of disdain, and she directly left. This was the top genius of the Hunyuan sect. In the past, he looked down on the Hunyuan sect, and no matter what arrogant things he did, it was only right in everyone's eyes. He was the number one genius, and he was not at the same level as everyone else. But now, when Nguyen Tan Lan rose to a certain level, she realized that this person's temperament was worse than an ordinary disciple's. Especially in such an occasion, he actually dared to criticize Li Mubai and express goodwill towards her. If this wasn't an idiot, then what was? "Brother Huang, have you heard? Li Mubai might be an outsider from the endless cycle of reincarnation to our chaotic colossal world." A total of 60 to 70 people from the Chaos Academy participated, and 43 of them were actually qualified to enter the sacred ground of the Immortal Sutra. At this time, they all gathered around the genius Huang Tianhua. "It's not a possibility, it's a certainty. Outsider. Ha! This is a chance for me." "Brother Huang, what do you mean? Situ Qian is really unbearable. How can he be worthy of Nguyen Tan Lan? You're asking for humiliation." Brother Huang, Nguyen Tan Lan has already lost her primordial yin body, so what? It was just the fusion of yin and yang, a kind of cultivation method. In my eyes, it's nothing. Oh, by the way, pass on my message to that idiot Situ Qian. If he dares to do anything to Nguyen Tan Lan, don't blame me, Huang Tianhua, for being impolite. Hiss. After saying that, Huang Tianhua turned into a stream of light and flew away. The disciples of the Primal Chaos Academy looked at each other in dismay. In the chaotic boundless world, men were possessive. As long as they had some status, they would not wear shoes that had been worn by others, especially when the shoes were relatively famous. For a man, that was a very shameful thing. Monstrous geniuses are monstrous geniuses. For the sake of cultivation, they don't care about reputation at all. Someone said softly. "What do you mean?" "Nguyen Tan Lan alone has 3 Dharma treasures. Perhaps Brother Huang doesn't care about them, but Li Mubai displayed powerful magical powers in the battle with the 9 monstrous geniuses. How many cultivators dream of having such powerful magical powers? Even if Li Mubai didn't impart them to Nguyen Tan Lan, they could still comprehend many of the Tao laws contained in the fusion of yin and yang. Whoever obtains Nguyen Tan Lan will obtain cultivation insights from another boundless world. I also want to. Unfortunately, Brother Huang has already warned us." Warning. That's true. At this moment, everyone finally understood why Huang Tianhua had clearly expressed his interest in Nguyen Tan Lan in front of all of them. At the same time, he had asked them to pass on his warning to Situ Qian. That was undoubtedly meant for them to hear as well. Chi. As Nguyen Tan Lan and Qin Hao flew towards the palace, a beam of immortal light suddenly descended from the sky and enveloped the two of them. Chen Hao didn't react at all. It was as if he already knew that this immortal light was coming, or that he knew that he couldn't resist it. Nguyen Tan Lan was shocked. No need to panic. In the immortal scripture city, apart from the ruler of the old man, no one dares to act recklessly. Ruler, Nguyen Tan Lan, Li Mubai is an outsider from the endless cycle of reincarnation. You can no longer be with him in the sacred land of the immortal scripture. Moreover, the old man will strip away any aura related to him from your body. But he won't strip away your memories of being with him. One more thing, after stepping out of the sacred land of the immortal scripture, you can't enter the Hongmeng region on your own before the old man comes looking for you. Ruler. Why? Tianji, Qi. Mubai. When the ruler only said the two words, Tianji, Li Mubai, who was also surrounded by immortal light, suddenly turned into a stream of light and broke through the sky. Nguyen Tan Lan exclaimed and screamed. Tears instantly streamed down her face as she frantically tried to break free from the shackles of the immortal light. However, everything she did was in vain. Chen Hao couldn't see or hear. Tianji. How can there be so many Tianji that can be predicted? The old man just left a seed of hope. Although it seems that there's no need at all and it's not very possible, we can't let our guard down. The ruler sensed Nguyen Tan Lan's state and thought to himself. Ha! I didn't expect that I was worrying too much. Since that's the case, put it away. Nature is the best, Qi. No one knew that in the immortal light that surrounded Nguyen Tan Lan, a dense and undetectable light was suddenly drawn out. If this light entered Nguyen Tan Lan's soul, then her emotional world would become an eternal and indelible eternity. She would no longer be able to accommodate any man other than Chen Hao in her heart. The ruler naturally had his reasons for doing so. The potential that Chen Hao had shown was really too terrifying. It was so terrifying that the ruler still had lingering fears. Such a person, as long as there was a slight possibility that he could find the vast thousand chaotic worlds in the future, he could bring about a huge disaster. Therefore, he wanted to keep Nguyen Tan Lan, and even anyone that Li Mubai had ever had feelings for in this life. It seemed useless now, but it might play a decisive role in the future. The great Tao was heartless. Was it really heartless? At his level, he knew better than anyone else. However, what the ruler did not expect was that when he was about to let the light enter Nguyen Tan Lan's soul, he found that he did not need to do anything extra. Nguyen Tan Lan was far more real than the ruthless great Tao that she appeared to be on the surface. It was just that she had suppressed it in her heart. Now that Chen Hao was suddenly taken away, her true feelings directly erupted. Even her master's ruthless great Tao sound just now broke through. The ruler also saw this, so he put away the immortal light that was opposite to Nguyen Tan Lan's masters, but was hundreds and thousands of times more powerful. Senior, in the city lord's palace in Immortal Scripture City, Chen Hao, who was wrapped in immortal light, was brought here. When he saw an old man sitting cross-legged on one side of a seemingly ordinary tea table and displaying his tea ceremony skills with a focused expression, he was rather surprised. However, he still called out respectfully. Little friend, don't call me senior. It's too much for the old man. Although you are weak now, this is only your endless cycle of reincarnation. Sit. Chapter 10-12. The endless cycle of reincarnation is a new life. Before I truly awaken, you're still my senior. You're pressuring me. Chen Hao frowned slightly. Ha. That's good. You have to remember that it's not that the old man is looking down on you, it's that your state of mind can't bear it for the time being. Sit down and talk. Senior, why are you so afraid of me? It's just the endless cycle of reincarnation. This is my new life, and also my lifetime. Ha, that's your current state of mind, not your true state of mind. When you truly awaken, you'll know that the old man's current thoughts are for the future of the billions of lives in the entire vast thousand worlds. The old man can't have any mishaps. Alright. Senior, what do you plan to do with me? This is what the old man wanted to tell you. You've finally broken through the immortal scripture holy land. Since he promised you, the old man will naturally let you enter. He won't have any demands on you. But 10 years later. Well, the immortal scripture holy land is 1,000 years later. The old man will directly erase all your imprints in the vast 1,000 worlds and send you to the Hongmeng domain. Hongmeng domain. Chen Hao frowned slightly. Senior, please tell me more about the Hongmeng domain. I've just awakened. With my previous strength, I didn't have any plans to enter the Hongmeng domain, so I know very little. That's not a problem. The old man did this to protect the vast 1,000 worlds. After all, we're not the great world of CND. We're very weak. You're an outsider, so you can't be imprinted in the vast 1,000 worlds. In fact, except for powerful existences like the great world of CND, all the vast 1,000 worlds are the same. They can't let outsiders know their true location. The Hongmeng domain exists in every vast 1,000 world, but it's an existence that's independent of the vast 1,000 worlds. It was also a realm that Daluo Jingxian had to enter when he ascended to the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. You can comprehend the origin of Hongmeng Qi, obtain the mark of the macro world, and condense the prototype of the macro world in your mind. When the prototype of your macro world is close to perfection and triggers Heaven's punishment to advance to the Hongmeng realm, Heaven's punishment will open the Milky Way tunnel that connects the 9 heavens and 10 earths and send you back to the boundless world before you entered. After Old Man erased your mark in the boundless world of chaos, Heaven's punishment will not send you back to the boundless world of chaos when you advance to the Hongmeng realm. Then where will we be teleported to? Chen Hao was shocked. Previously, he didn't know the real situation in the Hongmeng domain. With the strength of Li Mubai and the others, they didn't dare to enter the Hongmeng domain, so their knowledge was limited. Now, the words of the immortal scripture city master made Chen Hao excited. The great world of CND. Anyone who loses the mark of the boundless world will be exiled. Only the great world of CND, which is open to all boundless worlds, will accept practitioners without the mark. What kind of existence is the great world of CND? Chen Hao asked. He knew that since the immortal scripture city master told him this frankly, there was no possibility of changing it. Therefore, he could only learn more information. It's an existence that's hundreds and thousands of times more powerful than the Hongmeng domain. The so-called geniuses of our boundless world are reduced to the most ordinary disciples there. Anyone who is born and raised into the great world of CND has an overall talent and potential that is several levels higher than our boundless world. There are countless top geniuses. This is the real reason why they dare to open it to all boundless worlds. They are not afraid of being discovered by any boundless world. They also welcome you to become a member of their boundless world, regardless of strength or talent. As long as you can survive. That place is hell for the mediocre and heaven for the strong. If you can come back alive from there, you will at least become a Tao-severing perfected immortal. The immortal scripture city master looked at Chen Hao's eyes that were no longer empty. Seeing that there was no fear in Chen Hao's expression other than excitement, he praised him in his heart and continued, however, there are many who dare to go there, but only a few who can come back. Especially when one's realm is higher, the chances of coming back are lower. On the contrary, in the Hongmeng domain, the cultivators who directly stepped into the great world of CND when they triggered Heaven's punishment to advance to the Hongmeng domain have a higher chance of coming back. Zhou Qinglong, Yin Xian, Xiang Tianga, and the other 8 people are the people that the old man is going to send to the great world of CND. It's also because of this that they haven't stepped into the Grand Mist Supremacy realm until now. They have to condense the embryonic form of the great world of CND to the most perfect level of their own talent. Only then can they have greater improvement and the possibility of coming back. Of course, the old man won't erase their imprints related to the vast 1,000 chaotic worlds. Otherwise, they really won't be able to come back. When their heaven's punishment appears in the Milky Way tunnel that connects the 9 heavens and 10 earths, there will be 2 paths. One will directly return to the vast 1,000 chaotic worlds, and the other will enter the great world of CND. As for you, after the old man erases your imprint in the vast thousand chaotic worlds, you can only enter the vast thousand chaotic worlds. Is it possible to return to the vast thousand chaotic worlds before the endless cycle of reincarnation? This is impossible. Before the cycle of reincarnation, since you connected the 9 heavens and 10 earths to enter other vast thousand chaotic worlds, then before you fully awaken, it's impossible for your original vast thousand chaotic worlds imprint to appear. Unless what? Ha! Unless you originally came from the great world of CND. However, the probability of this is almost zero. Although your talent and potential are definitely qualified to be a genius disciple of the great world of CND, no practitioner from the great world of CND would define the endless cycle of reincarnation as a low-level vast thousand chaotic worlds. That's simply meaningless. Senior, have you been to the great world of CND? Of course I have, and I go there often. Your master, Duan Ziyu, has also been there. Basically, all the top experts in the vast thousand chaotic worlds have been there, but only the old man dares to go there often. This has nothing to do with realm and strength. Wherever you go, you will only face opponents of the same realm as you. That's a world with absolute laws, and no one will violate them. The most suitable place is the true genius. That's a paradise for practitioners to improve rapidly. Duan Ziyu was the name of the 5th great elder. Oh, thank you for your advice, Senior. You seem to be looking forward to it. Yes. You don't have any objections to what the old man has done? Of course not. Different standpoints naturally make different considerations. If I were you, I would make the same decision as you. What's more, I want a wider stage. Chenhao said without hesitation. He was indeed looking forward to it and was very excited, but it was not as simple as he said. It was not entirely because of the great world of the immortal emperor. Pursuing the peak of martial arts was his obsession. The great world of CND indeed made him yearn for it, but what he was really looking forward to was what would happen when he triggered the heavenly punishment in the Hongmeng domain. Because he was not the so-called endless cycle of reincarnation of the immortal scripture city. Chapter 10:13. Li Mubai was taken away by the master of the immortal scripture city. Don't tell me he won't be given a chance to enter the sacred land of the immortal scripture. It shouldn't be. The master summoned 9 monstrous geniuses to stop him, but they couldn't stop him. There's no reason not to let him enter at this time, who knows? Nguyen Tan Lan is a little pitiful. In the void, the disciples who had obtained the qualifications to enter the sacred land of the immortal scripture and were also rushing back to their palaces to wait for sunset to arrive. They stared blankly at Nguyen Tan Lan, who was standing in the void. When the master sent out 2 beams of immortal light to envelop the 2 of them, it attracted the attention of these cultivators. By now, basically everyone already knew about Li Mubai's situation. He could guess the basic reason why the master had taken him away. He's really quite pitiful. It's said that on the day Nguyen Tan Lan obtained the 3 treasures of the immortal scripture, the 2 of them were only Tao companions in name. It's really a pity. They just paid the price of their primordialine body and became true Tao companions, but they're going to be separated forever. What do you know? I heard from the disciples of the Hunyuan sect that Nguyen Tan Lan and Li Mubai had no interaction at all before entering the secret grotto heaven of the Hunyuan sect. Before that, Li Mubai was just a nobody in the Hunyuan sect, and Nguyen Tan Lan was a genius of the Hunyuan sect. It was impossible for them to have any interaction at all. But when Li Mubai entered the perverted demonic realm in the secret grotto heaven, Nguyen Tan Lan had always been by his side. Perhaps at that time, Nguyen Tan Lan saw enough benefits from Li Mubai's rise. Probably. I'm a little suspicious that Nguyen Tan Lan obtained the 3 treasures of the immortal scripture because of Li Mubai. Think about it, they were only Tao companions in name before, but after obtaining the 3 treasures of the immortal scripture, with Nguyen Tan Lan's temperament, how could she not know how great her value was? But when did she give her primordialine body to Li Mubai? It's obvious that Li Mubai can give her more room for improvement. And everyone saw the battle of these 9 days. It's really a change day. What's the use of saying this? Look at her now. Does she look like she's doing this for the sake of benefits? That's true. She's really pitiful, like this. Nguyen Thanh Lan stood in the void in a daze. Her eyes were still fixed on the direction Li Mubai was taken by the immortal light, and she murmured Nguyen Thanh Lan's name. Her beautiful face, which was not stunning but was very attractive, was covered with sparkling tears. Anyone could see that at this moment, Nguyen Thanh Lan must be heartbroken. Moreover, she must have fallen in love with Li Mubai, and not for benefits. At least, no matter whether it was before or not, it was definitely not for benefits now. Mubai. 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 Nguyen Thanh Lan's voice was almost numb. She allowed her emotions to spread and her mind to be filled with his figure. The 100 years of cultivation together in the cave of the secret realm, but there was no communication. After stepping into the Immortal Sutra city, his subconscious dependence on her like a newborn baby. She obtained the Immortal Sutra magic treasure, she almost died because of Li Mubai, and the fusion of yin and yang in order to save her life. Li Mubai's empty eyes filled every corner of her mind. She had always thought that she wanted to gain more from him. She had always thought that it was a coincidence and that she was forced to give her primordial yin body to him. She did not care, but now, when the real parting was destined to be separated by thousands of galaxies, and the hope of seeing him again was so slim that it was close to none, she felt her heart ache. She knew that it was against her heartless state of mind, but at this time, she could not resist her own heart. Unfortunately, whether she had understood it long ago or now, it was meaningless. At least, that was what she thought in the depths of her heart. The ending was destined from the beginning. But her heart could never go back to the past. Humph, serves you right. A figure in the crowd looked at Nguyen Thanh Lan with a little gloating. It was Zhang Chong. When he learned that Li Mubai was an outsider, he was first surprised, then excited. Especially when he learned that Li Mubai would not be able to continue staying in the vast thousand chaotic world, he was overjoyed. At this moment, after Li Mubai was taken away by the immortal light emitted by the controller, he felt even better when he saw Nguyen Thanh Lan's soulless and painful appearance. Situ Qian was rejected. I, Zhang Chong, may not be. After all, I am younger and have just obtained the Immortal Sutra magic treasure. My potential is endless. If I can get Nguyen Thanh Lan. A crazy look flashed across Zhang Chong's face. Especially when he thought about how Li Mubai's woman would look like when he rode her under his body, he was extremely excited. He did not have the strength to compete with Li Mubai, and now he had no chance. If he could vent on Li Mubai's woman, especially on the woman who had fallen in love with him, how happy would that be? Chi! A flowing light suddenly appeared beside Nguyen Thanh Lan as fast as lightning. Zhang Chong could not help it. However, although he was impulsive and irritable, Nguyen Thanh Lan's strength was not something he could compete with. What he wanted to do was to take advantage of the situation. Senior Qing Lan. Zhang Chong suppressed the restlessness in his heart and said softly. Staring at Nguyen Thanh Lan, whose face was covered in tears and whose eyes were glazed over, he felt more and more that if he could do it, it would be a very, very exciting thing. Don't be sad. Even without him, I, your junior brother, will take good care of you. Although I am a little weak now, I will definitely be very strong in the future. Zhang Chong said as he tried to pull Nguyen Thanh Lan, who did not react at all. He did not dare to go too far in front of everyone, but it should not be a problem to take advantage of her and take her away to appease her. Perhaps if he won her favor, it would be done quickly. Scram! But at this moment, a voice suddenly broke through the air like a thunderclap. A flowing light directly blocked between Nguyen Thanh Lan and Zhang Chong at an incredible speed. Huang! Huang! Brother Huang, you! What are you doing? Under the terrifying pressure, Zhang Chong's soul was almost shaken out by the scram, and his voice trembled as he retreated. With your face, you want to take care of Miss Ruan. Wipe your saliva and scram. If we were not in Xianjing City, you would already be a corpse. Huang Tianhua stared fiercely at Zhang Chong and said coldly. Zhang Chong's face suddenly turned ashen, and he was stunned for a full 10 seconds. He did not dare to let out a fart, and directly walked over with his head and face covered in dust. The other cultivators watched this dramatic scene unfold before their eyes. Although Zhang Chong hid it very well, when he approached Nguyen Tan Lan, most people could clearly see the lewd look in his eyes. It had to be said that this guy was really a bit of an idiot, and he did not have a brain at all. But no one expected that Huang Tianhua, the youngest monstrous genius of the Chaos Academy, would appear. Chapter 1014. Huang Tianhua's position in the hearts of the people was definitely no less than that of the 9 great evildoers. Although his current strength was not as good as the 9 great evildoers, he was a rising bright star. His future achievements might not be comparable to those of the 9 great evildoers. After Zhang Chong left dejectedly, Huang Tianhua's expression slowly changed. He turned to look at Nguyen Tan Lan with deep sympathy and heartache in his eyes. He did not disturb Nguyen Tan Lan, but stood quietly at the side, as if he was guarding her. Many of the cultivators were shocked when they saw this. They still remembered that when Nguyen Tan Lan had obtained the second Immortal Sutra magic treasure, Huang Tianhua had appeared and expressed his love in front of countless people. However, Nguyen Tan Lan had rejected him on the grounds that Li Mubai was her Taoist companion. At that time, Nguyen Tan Lan still had the body of primordial yin. Huang Tianhua had also acted very carefree. He had not been dissatisfied with Nguyen Tan Lan's rejection. On the contrary, he had said that he wanted to make friends with Li Mubai. In the eyes of many people, Huang Tianhua was confident, and he had not given up on Nguyen Tan Lan. But now, Nguyen Tan Lan was a real woman, and Li Mubai had obtained her body of primordial yin. Then, at this moment, why did Huang Tianhua appear again beside Nguyen Tan Lan, and why did he look at her with such a gaze? Those who could stay in the Immortal Sutra city at this moment were the top geniuses of the vast thousand chaotic world. Although they knew that Nguyen Tan Lan had 3 Immortal Sutra magic treasures, and her aura was extremely strong at this moment, and she definitely had a very powerful future, few of them were willing to be Li Mubai's successor. Who would be able to bear such a loss of face? If in the future, when their potential was exhausted, there would be no problem in secretly dating. After all, at that time, he would definitely reap a lot of benefits from the yin and yang of Nguyen Tan Lan. However, the most devilish Huang Tianhua actually appeared beside Nguyen Tan Lan at this time, and even stared at her with that kind of gaze. Miss Ruan is my Huang Tianhua's friend. If she is willing, she will be my Dao companion, my only Dao companion. If any of you have any ulterior motives, don't blame me, Huang Tianhua, for being impolite. These words were transmitted to all of you. However, it's not that I, Huang Tianhua, want to hide anything. It's just that I don't want Miss Ruan to have any prejudice against me. Huang Tianhua suddenly glanced at the cultivators not far away and transmitted his voice to everyone's ears. He was already handsome, but at this moment, his eyes were shining with cold killing intent. He wanted to let everyone know that he was not joking, but was serious. This made everyone even more dumbfounded. In particular, some young female disciples looked at Nguyen Tan Lan with eyes that were no longer pitiful, but jealous. Why do I feel that Brother Huang doesn't seem like he's trying to obtain a greater improvement? I have the same feeling. However, for such a devilish genius, even if he's faking his emotions, we can't see through it. Perhaps he really doesn't care and has really fallen in love. Several disciples of the Chaos Academy secretly conversed. Situ Qian clenched his fists tightly, but soon loosened them again. He knew that even without Li Mubai, Nguyen Tan Lan was not someone he could touch. It could be seen from the way the other disciples of the Chaos Academy alienated him. Mubai, Qi. Nguyen Tan Lan's sluggish eyes suddenly lit up, and she immediately turned into a stream of light and flew toward the palace that the disciples of the Immortal Scripture City lived in. Huang Tianhua was slightly taken aback by the instantaneous speed that seemed like teleportation. Soon after, Huang Tianhua quickly followed. So fast. It seems to contain the aura of the great teleportation technique. Let's go. At this time, the onlooking cultivators also left one after another and returned to their respective palaces. Mubai, when Wen Tanlan appeared at the entrance of the palace, she raised the token, opened the palace door, and closed it immediately. She looked like she had lost her soul, as if she had gone crazy. Huang Tianhua watched Wen Tanlan enter the palace before shaking his head and disappearing into the void. In the palace, Wen Tanlan went to the cultivation room, the sacred bath, the bedroom, and the hall. Under the laws of space and time, after an unknown period of time, she suddenly burst into tears. She squatted on the ground, curled up her body, and tore at her hair. The immortal scripture sacred ground is about to open. All disciples, please come to the city lord's mansion immediately. The city lord's mansion was also the mansion of the controller. Qi. The door to Wan Qinglan's palace quickly opened. Her fine black hair was once again neatly combed and coiled up. In just half a day, her expression and gaze seemed to have changed into a completely different person. She was no longer the same person. This kind of change surprised many curious people. Even Huang Tianhua was surprised. That was because there was no longer any sadness in her eyes. Instead, there was only a kind of determination. Qi. Huang Tianhua leaped to Wen Tanlan's side. Miss Ruan, thank you. Qi. Wen Tanlan did not stop. Instead, she sped up and left these two words. Huang Tianhua frowned slightly. He paused and shook his head, tactfully not following her, even though he had the ability to. Soon, everyone arrived at the city lord's mansion, which was shrouded in immortal light. Wen Tanlan stared unblinkingly at the core of the city lord's mansion, where the immortal light was growing stronger and stronger. Even though it was her first time here, she could be sure that it was the door to the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra that was slowly opening. Dao companions who wanted to travel together were already holding hands tightly. Friends who wanted to travel together were also doing the same. Miss Ruan, the pressure in the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra is very strong. If one travels alone, at least half of his energy and time will be used to resist the pressure. However, it is more important for us to comprehend the Immortal Sutra. I don't mean anything else. If you are willing, you can come with us. This way, if we take turns resisting the pressure, we will reap greater rewards. Thank you for your kindness, Wen Tanlan said directly without any change in her gaze. All right. Huang Tianhua said helplessly. Buzz. An hour later, dazzling immortal light and terrifying pressure suddenly gushed out. The door to the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra had finally opened. The sacred land of the Immortal Sutra has opened. Please enter immediately. Chi. There was no need for a reminder. Figures rushed in one after another. The moment they entered the pressure of the immortal light, they seemed to have merged into an endless whirlpool and disappeared instantly. At this moment, Wen Tanlan did not move at all. She stared with wide eyes at every figure that entered the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra. Please enter quickly. You only have 10 seconds. Qi. At this moment, a stream of light suddenly descended from the void. Wen Tanlan, who had released all her divine sense to sense, suddenly raised her head. Chapter 10-15. The familiar figure, the familiar face, and the familiar empty eyes flashed past. The last glance was fixed on Wen Tanlan's eyes. Mubai, she did not shout or send a voice transmission. Only her eyes shone with an incomparably determined light. She suddenly chased after the stream of light and entered the entrance of the Immortal Sutra sacred land. She's truly a rare woman. What Wen Tanlan did not know was that Qin Hao, who passed by in a flash, had also seen her and deliberately sized her up carefully. Wen Tanlan's appearance made him sigh in admiration, making him feel even less burdened. He knew that she did not enter first because she was waiting for him to take a look. Perhaps it was just a look. Being lucky in love doesn't mean that all women will fall for him. Fortunately, it's not that bad. My worries were unnecessary. The moment Nguyen Thanh Lan entered, Huang Tianhua also directly merged into the immortal light. The Immortal Sutra Sacred Land, unless they merged into one when entering, would be teleported to an independent area. Nguyen Thanh Lan knew that glance was their farewell. His empty eyes might not have seen her at all, she did not shout or send a voice transmission. It was meaningless. Stepping onto the peak of martial arts was still her obsession, but now she had an additional goal. Although the hope was slim, or perhaps impossible, she resolutely merged the two. This made her martial arts heart firmer, more substantial, and more intense. Little did she know, they had missed it once, and missed it again. One deliberately pretended to seal all her divine senses, and the other was silently played by fate, brushing past each other just like that. Good temperament, the master of the Immortal Sutra City was also paying attention to Nguyen Thanh Lan's every move. If Nguyen Thanh Lan's performance was too intense, he would definitely make a move. After all, if Chin Hao proposed to take Nguyen Thanh Lan away at this time, he really could not refuse. That was not what he wanted. If Nguyen Thanh Lan stayed in the chaotic universe, she would become a bargaining chip in the future. There was no point in leaving. Similarly, if Nguyen Thanh Lan had a new Dao companion here, it would also be meaningless. This was also the reason why he didn't make a move when he saw Nguyen Thanh Lan's true feelings. Such a thing might seem insignificant, but if something really went wrong, it could become the key. I hope that kid doesn't comprehend too much. The Immortal Sutra Holy Land. Even the controller, Old Man, only reached the 99th level. The previous controller reached the 104th level, and the previous controller reached the 115th level. How many levels are there? This was a mystery. No one knew. The uniqueness of the Immortal Scripture Holy Land was no less than that of the Hongmeng domain, which connected the 9 heavens and 10 earths. The boundless chaos world was born because of it. In the endless years until now, the highest record of comprehension in the vast thousand worlds was 115 levels. Buzz. After a terrifying distortion in spacetime, Chen Hao appeared in an ice blue, beautiful, and fantastical space. However, it was a narrow, spherical space with a diameter of only 10,000 feet. The space was surrounded by azure blue like the sky and the sea. The sparkling waves were the Tao traces of the Immortal Sutra, containing 3 different kinds of pressure. This was obviously the amalgamation of the 3 great Immortal Sutras. The thick spirit chi of heaven and earth and the majestic pressure of the Immortal Sutra were not very strong for Chen Hao, but they made him excited. Almost instantly, he sensed that this was not at all comparable to the pressure of the pagoda steel in the secret grotto heaven of the Hanyuan sect. This was not about the size of the pressure, but the mystery contained in the pressure. This was the most essential mystery of the 3 great Immortal Sutras. The secret grotto heaven was obtained by the masters of the Hanyuan sect through their own Immortal Sutras. Comprehending the secret grotto heaven's pagoda steel was like catching a fish, and comprehending the 3 great Immortal Sutras of the origin was like catching a fish. Only by comprehending the origin could one comprehend a divine ability that truly belonged to oneself and was suitable for oneself. Phew. As long as I can comprehend one of the 3 Immortal Sutra Tao traces to the limit of this space, I can enter the next level. It's very simple. Although the secret grotto heaven's pagoda steel was comprehended by the masters of the past, I can more or less comprehend some of the true Immortal Sutras by tracing the source. Buzz. The space between Chen Hao's eyebrows suddenly flickered, and the spiritual altar unscrupulously bloomed. This is the aura of the Earth Desolation Sutra. This is the aura of the Heavenly Emperor Sutra. This is the aura of the Primal Chaos Sutra. This is the most basic Immortal Sutra, so powerful. Chen Hao was excited. No matter how strong his ability to trace the source was, when faced with the 3 great Immortal Sutras, Chen Hao could not directly comprehend the true Immortal Sutra from the Tao traces left behind by others. But now, the mysterious aura in front of him was the most basic origin of the three great immortal sutras. Although the first level was very weak, it was the cornerstone of the three great immortal sutras. Phew. I must do my best to improve myself in the next 1,000 years under the laws of space and time. The Hongmeng domain, the Hongmeng realm, the great world of Xian Di. Similarly, I can also return to the primal chaos universe. And my current strength is still too weak. Chi. Boom. Chen Hao no longer hesitated. Chapter 10:16. Since Chen Hao had realized the importance of the Grand Tao, the Grand Tao outline had practically been running through his cultivation. Whether it was tempering his true essence or comprehending profound talisman markings or ultimate techniques, he only had to spare a strand of his mind to recite it, and it would allow his efficiency to increase by several times. At the beginning, Chen Hao was utterly unable to understand it. Even now, he could only comprehend a little bit. Most of the time, he knew the meaning but didn't know the reason. He only understood the literal meaning and couldn't be considered to have comprehended it at all, but now, starting from the most basic profoundness of the three great immortal scriptures, he went from shallow to deep step by step. When he comprehended a certain level, a sentence from the Grand Tao outline suddenly appeared in his mind. Moreover, it just happened to confirm his previous comprehension. Although there was still a slight discrepancy, it allowed Chen Hao to have a deeper understanding of the Grand Tao outline. It also allowed Chen Hao to be sure that the three great immortal scriptures definitely originated from the Grand Tao outline. Moreover, it was an extraordinary existence that had a profound understanding of the Grand Tao outline. Under such circumstances, Chen Hao was like a fish in water. He'd completely forgotten the passage of time, and he'd even forgotten that his body and soul were enduring more and more terrifying pressure. Especially after he arrived at the 60th level, even if it was his abnormal body and soul, the pain he endured was rather enormous. However, he didn't notice it at all, and his mind was completely immersed in comprehension. The Grand Tao outline in his mind allowed Chen Hao to comprehend the three great immortal scriptures at a shocking speed. Moreover, the three great immortal scriptures' comprehension from shallow to deep allowed Chen Hao to deepen his comprehension of the Grand Tao outline. They complemented and promoted each other. What a terrifying pressure! 300 years, 106th level. It was only when Chen Hao entered the 106th level that Chen Hao was forced to jump out from the deep level of comprehension for the first time. The terrifying pressure had practically pressed down on him to the point he couldn't breathe. His body and soul were in extreme pain. Especially after he jumped out of the selfless state of comprehension, he felt that the pressure had expanded by 10 times or 100 times in an instant. Have I reached the limit of what I can endure? Bang! Chen Hao forcefully agitated the energy, true essence, and soul in his body to alleviate the pain at this moment. At the same time, for the first time, he consciously and madly devoured the dense world energy and pressure. That's not right. At this moment, Chen Hao suddenly frowned. 106 levels, and the pressure increases with each level. It's impossible for it to increase so much all of a sudden. This is because it's beyond my selflessness. It's because I'm not focused enough. It's not because I've reached my limit. Otherwise, my soul and body wouldn't be in perfect condition. That means I'm far from reaching my limit. Qi. Thinking up to this point, Chen Hao actually retracted his essence, spirit, Zhen Yuan, and soul power, allowing himself to once again fall into the terrifying pressure. Facing the pressure head-on. Qi 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 qi. In an instant, Chen Hao felt that every cell in his body and every strand of thought in his soul was being crazily suppressed, as if he had fallen into a situation where he could collapse at any time. However, Chen Hao's eyes were wide open. Other than seeing himself break out in a cold sweat, there was nothing out of the ordinary. True selflessness is my true self. The current me's endurance, especially my willpower's endurance, is clearly far inferior to when I was truly selfless. Endure, I'll endure, endure, endure until I'm used to this degree of pain. Chen Hao put down all his thoughts and continued to stare. He didn't use the slightest bit of energy, didn't use any divine ability, and just fought against this terrifying pressure. Every minute and every second felt extremely long, but Chen Hao clenched his teeth and endured. There was no doubt that this was a crazy and unreasonable thing to do, but this wasn't the first time Chen Hao had tempered his willpower like this. Facing pain head-on was something he had done at a very low level. Now that he was in the Daluo Golden Wonderland, he was once again using the simplest, cruelest, and most effective method to destroy himself. 1 day, 2 days, 10 days, 1 month, 3 months, the pain his body and soul endured became stronger and stronger, more and more painful. After enduring for nearly half a year, Chen Hao's body and soul began to violently tremble at almost the same time, and then his mind exploded with a boom. At this moment, Chen Hao felt as if he had become an immortal. His entire body and soul were filled with endless comfort, as if all the pressure had disappeared, and there was no more pain to speak of. It was also at this moment that Chen Hao's glabella shone with a dazzling light. His soul blossomed on its own, sparkling and translucent like jade, untainted by even a speck of dust. Breakthrough, Chen Hao's blood-stained mouth slowly cracked open, revealing a brilliant smile. This was a breakthrough in willpower. Buzz. Naturally, Chen Hao entered the state of thoughtless tranquility and selflessness in an extremely relaxed manner. His entire mind was instantly integrated into the mysteries contained in the pressure of the Immortal Sutra, and he began to comprehend once more. In the blink of an eye, another 300 years had passed. Chen Hao once again jumped out of the deep level of comprehension on his own.